Let's talk about his first-class record because he's had a tremendous season for Barbados. And how do you think he would have fared if he'd been given the chance? And tell us about his stats in first-class cricket, Zahir.
Yeah, Shamar has been a pretty good player. When you look at Shamar Holder, even in the first class arena, he has been playing pretty well. I would have loved to see him possibly even in the second test,
Yeah.
or even in this test when they had given Joseph a rest. I'm suspecting that the Joseph got a rest because of that tricep bicep issue that he had in the second test. He's a pretty quick bowler. In first class cricket, he does pretty well with the ball. I think he's averaging like 20, 24 thereabout bowling. So he has done well. I think he has probably around 20 matches. That's part of the issue. I think a lot of the players, even in the squad, they have not played a lot of first class cricket because the dynamics of first class cricket in the West Indies. In the West Indies, well, a few years, or probably around 6-8 years ago, the first class season would involve around 5 games. Now, most of the teams are playing like 10 first class games per season. So a lot of these players are now getting an opportunity to play more cricket. And somebody like even Shamar Holder, this is his second season. I think playing first class cricket, around 2 seasons now playing first class cricket. But he has been looking good. He's a pretty nice fast bowler. Pretty good strike rate. He takes his wickets, I think, around almost 40 strike, 40 balls per wicket. So he's pretty good, and he has quite a number of 5-wicket hauls and even 4-wicket hauls when you look at his record in the Caribbean. So it would have been nice to have him. Probably would have given one of the other bowlers a rest, probably Gabriel, who seems to be having some issues, and even issues with no ball, which is another thing that is something that we could even talk about. But yeah, it would have been nice to see him in this test match for sure.
Well, you could say it's the batting frailties that have been the problem for West Indies overall. And again, same sort of question, if not Hope, if not Brathwaite, who's making a case for inclusion at first class level? Who's the next? Who would you like to see coming into this team? Or is it a question of someone like Puran, being given an opportunity in red ball cricket? You're going to go back to Darren Bravo. He is the incumbent, as it were, in Hetmeyer. Tell us about the next ones in line.
Well, outside of this series, it would be nice to have Bravo or Hetmeyer in this squad for sure. But we can't cry over spilled milk.
Yeah.
You have Bonner, you have Mosley, who had looked good in previous seasons, in the first class game opening. You also have Da Silva, who looked good in the warm-up matches that I was very impressed with. So those are 3 individuals right off the top of my head. I know somebody like Brandon King. I'm trying to remember if it was in the list A or if it was in the first class game that he did pretty well, because I remember they had brought him into the squad, I think, for the Afghanistan tour late last year. But there are other players as well that have been performing. Need some more experience in the first class cricket, and I think like even a contract like in county cricket or even South Africa, playing some more first class games would do well for some of those other players. But yeah, you have a few players there because Hope has been struggling. Brathwaite has been struggling for a long period, and we just have not been getting the goods from them. Can I give you an interesting thing that I came across the other day? Was that in the last 5 years for West Indies has had 1 century opening partnership in Test cricket. 1 century opening partnership in Test cricket since 2015. If you compare to other teams, they have many more. I think Australia has 18 in that 5-year period. And even if you look at, for example, the amount of 50-plus partnerships they have, West Indies has 11% of their innings. They've had a 50-plus partnership. It's the lowest of all the teams, the regular teams that we have in world cricket. Most of the other teams are at 20%, some of them even 33% of their openers are getting past 50. So that has been an issue, the opening partnership for West Indies.
Has the batting followed a predictable pattern for you then, Zahir? Did you expect to see the bulk of the runs coming from the sort of middle order, and did you have low expectations about that top order?
I had low expectations. I was hoping that the expectations would would not come to fruition. But yeah, it's for the last 3 to 4 years, the bulk of the runs have come from the individuals who have batted at 5, 6, 7, and 8 for West Indies. The top order, if you look at the top order for West Indies, on average, I think it is one of the low. They have one of the lowest averages. If you look at the top 2, top 3, top 4 batsmen in world cricket over the last 3, 4 years. So that has been an issue. While the lower order, if you look at the lower order, the averages of the lower order, they have been in the top 3 in terms of teams in the world. So when you look at persons like Holder, Dorridge, sometimes Chase, sometimes Hetmyer when he plays at 5 or 6, those have been the persons who have topped the averages. If you look at the calendar averages, like in 2018, 2017, when you look at the calendar averages for West Indies Test team, it was Holder, Dorridge, and I think Hetmyer. So they have been the usual suspects. In this Test series, we have seen where Chase, Blackwood, Holder, and Dorridge have been the persons.
I remember you asking the question to Jason Holder before the series started at the pre-series press conference. You said to him, "Is it sustainable?" You asked a brilliant question. You said, "Look, is it sustainable that numbers 7 and 8 should have the highest batting averages in this team? Is that a sustainable position moving forwards?" Were you satisfied with his answer? That was the question you asked, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good question. I had no issues with the answer because I wanted him to really. The reason I asked the question because myself, I don't think it's sustainable, and the others high up the order needs to start making more runs. And some persons might look at it and say, "Oh, if they bat at 7 and 8, there's a likelihood that they will be getting more not out, so they'll have higher averages." But that's not necessarily the case. When you look at even the run tallies for the year, the persons who have scored the most runs per year in Test cricket for West Indies are the persons batting at 7 and 8. So it's not necessarily that the not-outs are what giving them the higher averages when we look at it mathematically. It's the fact that they are the persons who are scoring most of the bulk of the runs for West Indies. And to be sustainable, no team in world cricket is going to win a lot of matches if the bulk of their runs are coming solely from those batting at 7 and 8. You need the persons between 3 to 5.
Do you think Jason Holder should have gone up the order in this Test series? Should he have said, "Look, I know the batting's weak. I'm going to play at 6 and set an example"?
I think he tried to do that in the first innings of this Test, where you saw him go up the order and he scored, I think, around 44 or thereabout, because he realized the situation that the team was in. I would have hoped that he would have probably gone up the order, but he's trying to give confidence to the batsmen. He's trying to say to them, "All right, guys, you guys need to score some runs." But they have just not been showing up to the party. A lot of them have gotten good starts, but they have not been showing up to the party. And an interesting thing that Kohli said, I think a few months ago, or probably this week I saw it, but he was saying that when he came to England, I think in 2013, 2014, and I think he averaged like 13 that time around. And when he went back to India and he was talking to Tendulkar, and Tendulkar was saying to him that, "Brother, you can't be having yourself trapped on the crease against these English bowlers. If you're going to be playing well in cricket and Test cricket, you have to have a forward press. You have to get on that front foot and play these bowlers because they're going to trap you on the crease, and more likely out of not, they're going to get you LBW or ball." And Kohli said that after he's had that discussion with Tendulkar, he went ahead and looked at his whole game. And we saw what happened in 2014 when he went down to Australia and how his career blossomed since then, both his and Steve Smith. And if you look at Kohli in Test cricket, you're not getting him trapped on the crease. You're always seeing him coming forward, trying to be aggressive against the bowlers. Not necessarily taking risky shots, but having a positive attitude to his batting. And I think that's one of the issues that we'll be seeing.
Yeah, Zahir, hi. Craig Brathwaite did try that over the last couple of years. There was some CricViz pulled out some data before the start of the series that says over the last couple of years, Craig Brathwaite's actually batted further out of his crease than any other opening batter in the world. But it really didn't work for him. And he's, reverted to tight batting kind of on the crease now and shuffling. He scored some runs and batted long, which is what Craig Brathwaite wants to do. So I mean, that kind of thing doesn't work for everybody. Just interestingly on the
He got stuck on the crease today.
he did, yes, he did, yes.
It's not just batting. It's not just batting out of the crease, because quite a lot of the top players, some of them bat outside of the crease. It's not just batting out of the crease. The important thing is also coming on the front foot and having that forward press or forward action. Getting trapped on the crease or trapped just outside of the crease. Against in these conditions against English bowlers is going to get your bowler LBW nonetheless. So you have to be coming on the front foot, and that has been the issue. If you look at most of the dismissals for Brathwaite, he has been trapped squared up, flat on the crease, not coming forward to many of his shots.
It's true, and I think it speaks to someone he's had a horrible run in Test cricket over the last couple of years, and it speaks to someone who is lacking confidence and is thinking survival first rather than run scoring first, which means that even your defensive shots aren't very positive. I've just been looking. There's been some stats sent in about West Indies, how often they win the toss and bowl first, or rather don't bat first. And Jason Holder is very aware of the fragility of the top order, and so he chooses to bat first more than any other captain.
Bowl first.
Oh, first.
He chooses to bowl first more than any other captain. But even that hasn't helped, because the West Indies bowling first have the lowest, only Sri Lanka and Bangladesh have a lower mean batting average bowling first. So it's not as though Jason Holder isn't aware of the problem, and he's trying to, while those batters aren't there and while they aren't performing, he's trying to maximise their strengths and go with a slightly more defensive mindset of bowling first. But even that isn't working.
Yeah, it's something to look at, and you have to take another thing into consideration. As a bowling captain, you always want to go and bowl first, and that's one issue. But I think it shows there's a lack of confidence, and rightfully so if you look at it. There's a lack of confidence in the batting. A lot of the test matches that West Indies have won over the last 3-4 years has been on the back of a good bowling performance from the West Indies, especially a good bowling performance in the first team inning, where if they reduce the opposition to less than 250, they usually go on to win those matches. Even if you look at the last 2.5 years since 2018, every match they have won, they have restricted the opposition to less than 250 runs in that first inning with the bowling. And a lot of times in those matches, they actually bowl first. But it's sad that a captain has to take that approach.
Yeah.
Because even if you look at even this ground, the Old Trafford ground, nobody usually bowls first at this ground, and Holder has done it twice.
No team has ever won a test at Old Trafford electing to bowl first.
Yeah, if you look at the 81 matches now that have been played at Old Trafford, and in those 80 matches, 71 or 72 of them, I think the captains have always, when they won the toss, bat first. And in the last 27 years, nobody bowled first on this pitch until Holder did it twice in a row.
Yeah. The last before that was Gatting in 1993.
Yeah, not just once, but twice.
All that confidence that West Indies had going into the first test at Southampton, where they were super prepared, knew exactly what they were trying to do, and executed their game plan perfectly with bat and ball, all of that seems to have ebbed away completely now.
Yeah, and it started, I think, in that second test, in that first inning, when they were comfortable, I think, at 240 or thereabout for 4. And then in a span of like 40-something runs, they lost 6 wickets and got bowled out for less than 300. That's, I think, where the confidence got shot. And that was one of the few moments that the lower guard never came through for them in terms of those batting at 7 and lower, scoring some runs. So that was kind of sad to see. And from there, they have lost the momentum. I just sent out a column, I think it was last week, saying, has West Indies lost the momentum in the series? And it's seeing that the momentum was lost right at that. That was where they lost all their confidence. Because, to be truth be told, this pitch is a 360 par pitch in the last 5-10 years. If you look at first team innings score on this pitch, it's 350, 360. And no team has won a test match on this pitch, I think, in the last 5 to 10 years, having scored less than 360 runs in their first team inning. So that's par for this course. And West Indies got bowled for less than 200 in their first team inning, which was sad. And similarly, in the previous test, they got bowled for less than 300. The batters has to come through. And I think at the press conference before the second test, I had mentioned it. in a sense, I think it was either to the captain or the coach, and I was asking a question before, and I said to them that the par score for this pitch is 360. In indicating to them that the batsmen have to come good on this pitch if West Indies has a chance of winning this series. And interestingly, if West Indies had won this series, even 2-0 or 3-0, they would have jumped up the rankings from 8th to 5 or 6, because it is that close between the teams. But right now, if they draw the series, they'll probably remain at 7 or 8.
I think it's 7th in the World Test Championship rankings. They got their first points on the board in the first test, jumped above South Africa.
That's the World Test Championships. I'm just talking the overall regular rankings.
Right.
If they had won this even series at 3-0, after winning the first, go on to win the last 2, they would have jumped to 5, and England would have still be at 4. But because of how they have performed in the last 2 tests, I think the highest position they can end up is probably 7th or still remain at 8. If they lose this test match, they would not have gained any ratings points for this series, and that would have been very sad.
Well, Zahir, you're talking to us from Kingston, Jamaica, known for its track and field in recent years. Just looking at the big picture, with cricket, do you think to what extent has, Usain Bolt's success and all the success of the track and field athletes, has that sort of, been a sort of bit of a sort of nail in the coffin for cricket, as it were? Because you think of Jamaica now as number one, all about track and field, and has cricket lost the prominence that it has, say, in Barbados?
In Jamaica, cricket has lost the prominence that it once had. You don't see a lot of kids on the road playing cricket as much, and even adults playing in their communities, you don't see that a lot. In 2016, when we won the 3 titles in world cricket, you saw more persons on the street playing cricket and even kids, and that even brought tears to my eyes one day when I saw it, and the condition of a field that they were playing it, littered with garbage, but the kids, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, were out there playing cricket because they were excited about cricket, because West Indies was winning. I think that has been an issue, especially in Jamaica. West Indies has not been winning one. But even when West Indies was not winning, the Jamaica team was also performing well and winning regional titles. They have not won any regional titles in quite a while, and that has even caused it to win even more. Track and field has always been popular in Jamaica.
Yeah.
The Boys and Girls Championships is one of the biggest meets, high school meets you have in the world, and everyone, world media, comes to that meet to watch these youngsters like Usain Bolt, the Shelley and Frazers, when they're in high school performing before they go on to their professional careers. So track and field has always been big, but cricket was huge in the 80s, and persons used to fill the stands even for regional cricket games. Now you can't find 50 persons in the stands for a regional cricket game. I remember the other day I went to one, and when I was in the stands there, along with the commentators, I think there were probably around 10 persons.
Yeah, it's a shame they don't move the games around like they used to. In Jamaica, where you would play at Alpart Sports Ground down in St Elizabeth, or you play at Jared Park in Montego Bay. I think the agreement with the players' unions means that they do have, with WEPA, means that they have to play every first-class match in the main stadium. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think most of the matches are played at Sabina. There are a few first-class games that make it, and probably in the last year or so, that make it down to the
Trelawney.
The Trelawney, and it's actually right across the road from me, because I usually go to the games. My house is right across the road, literally right across the road from the stadium. So there are games. I think a couple of games played there. Some West Indies A-team games sometimes come there as well. But to be right, most of the cricket is played at Sabina Park. Sometimes you have matches like at Chedwin Park and other places instead of Al Park, but that doesn't happen a lot these days. Most of them happen at Sabina Park. And cricket has been winning in terms of funding. They're not getting the funding that they used to get. Unlike Barbados, where they have a lottery set up that helps to fund the cricket and those things.
Makes a big difference. Do you think that accounts for the huge? Yeah, do you think that accounts for the huge percentage of Barbados players in this squad? The fact they've got the lottery funding,
Yeah, and the development of cricket in Barbados for sure. In Jamaica, we don't have something like that. We are one of many sports and other organizations, because you have the Chase Fund in Jamaica. but the culture, persons for culture, persons for sports education, all of them get cash out of that. So it's not going directly into cricket as it happens in Barbados. But money is a part of it, but also the popularity of the game in West Indies and Jamaican players doing well, and the Jamaican team doing well in the regional.
Yeah,
cricket.
and schools, playing cricket in schools and all that. Is there as much cricket played in schools in Jamaica as there is in Barbados?
Cricket, I'm going to say no. And part of the reason is the cost is a big factor for a lot of the school. Because even my college that I used to lecture at, when it comes to cricket season and playing intercollegiate cricket, the big thing that the principal will look at and ask firstly is, what's the cost? And how are we going to find the funding? Because cricket on a whole is a much more expensive sport than even track and field. Track and field, you can get somebody to go and run barefooted or probably get a spikes for them at a reasonable cost. But for cricket, the bats, the whole gears, it's very costly. And that's part of the reason why a lot of the high schools don't play as much cricket as they used to.
No. I mean, that comes back to the division of the revenue at ICC level, doesn't it? That you're all playing now in the same International Test Championship, all play in the same ICC tournaments, but the division of the resources is so, uneven. That surely is the thing that needs to be addressed.
To be honest, David, this is one of the sore points for me. It's something that I have written about, something that I've discussed at length. The division of revenue and resources from the ICC. To be honest, the big three takes all of the cash.
Yeah.
And teams like even New Zealand who do well, and other teams, they don't get as much revenue. And even outside of that, if you just look at the pay equity in world cricket between the players, someone like a Kane Williamson and a Jason Holder, the pay that they get, and compare that to somebody like, if I look at Williamson, who's one of the best batsmen in the world. If you look at Williamson, what he gets for his pay, and in comparison to someone like a Root or even a Kohli, it's ridiculous, the difference in the pay structure. And I'm not just talking about white ball cricket, it's Test cricket or even the contracts that they get. Because if I recall correctly, West Indian players, I think the maximum that they can get in terms of their contracts is, I think, $150,000 US. I think New Zealand.
Well, Jason Holder was calling for a minimum. That's probably one of the reasons why Jason Holder was calling for like a minimum salary for Test cricketers across the world.
Yeah. Because the minimum a West Indian player gets is $100,000. The maximum I think he can get, depending on the class level of player, is probably $150,000. But if you look at the other teams and even the contracts for the English teams, and I was researching, some of the English players that can get millions. I mean, over a million US. So Kohli getting close to like $2 million, I think, if I recall correctly, or over $1 million US for his contract. So it's like 1/8 of the money. So it's a big issue in world cricket, and I think we need to have more equity, because if we're going to go to having cricket playing on a wider scale among more countries and not just among Commonwealth countries, then for sure we definitely need to have more equity.
Well, that's why I guess Dave Cameron is running for the chairmanship of the ICC, but he may be in a situation where he's not necessarily supported by the West Indies Cricket Board. Yeah,
and because of issues between him and the West Indies, the president of West Indies Cricket Board, were the persons who replaced him when he lost the presidency last year in March. There are going to be issues there, and I think Skerritt has said publicly that he and Colin Graves are good friends. So I guess because of that, he's probably leaning towards Graves, and especially the relationship that has taken place now between.
Okay, let's talk about that relationship, because I've heard it said in Caribbean media that West Indies have taken all the risk coming here to England to play this Test series, and they're not getting suitable return for that. Have you heard that said? And what would you like to see English cricket do for West Indies cricket in return for fulfilling this tour?
Well, for this tour, I definitely think that they should possibly come back to West Indies and play a series, probably a test series in the near future. I know the South African series that was supposed to happen is in doubt because of the IPL window and the CPL windows that we have currently. And a similar thing, I think New Zealand, we were supposed to play New Zealand as well. I don't know what's the status of that tour, given everything that's happening worldwide. But for definitely, I would love for the ECB to help the West Indies, coaching wise, training wise, development wise, getting some of their players, West Indies players, probably even contracts in the country.
Well, yeah.
Because the development of West Indies cricket, I think, is important, and for them also, ECB, because of how West Indies went and went to bend their backs to ensure that this series went on. Something needs to be done some way, somehow.
Yeah.
Some encouragement, some way, somehow.
That's what we were discussing at the start of lunch when you came in on the conversation, is the fact that, you know, the county cricket was very much a part of West Indians development when you look at the teams of the 70s, 80s, 90s. And, you know, and we were discussing exactly this, about how to get more West Indians back into county cricket. Do you think that is something that West Indies players would relish, you know, getting a chance to play county cricket?
For sure. And we have seen how that has helped development game. Back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, when you look at the different tournaments used to have, Shell Shield, and all the different tournaments, the amount of first class games were like 5, as I had mentioned earlier. So you can't play 5 matches per year, and that helps you to develop into a quality test cricketer. A lot of the players, if you look, what happened was when they came to county cricket and they were playing 30, 40 games per season, that they actually learned and developed their skills. Somebody like even a young Ambrose, when he talked about when he decided to take up cricket, I think it was in 1984, and then he got scholarship, I think, or something of the sort, to go to England. Even Vibritas talked about when he got his scholarship to go to England. It was then that he actually developed and learned what it was like to be a professional cricketer. And if you look at a lot of the best players that we've looked at over the years, the Imran Khans, all of them came to England and played county cricket, and that helped them develop into the world-class players that they were for the different sides. West Indies' demise, I think, happened when less and less of our players started playing county cricket, and
that can be traced directly to the changes in the schedule and the IPL window that was created, which has forced a lot of Test cricket into what I would call the English summer months, and thereby rendering West Indies players unavailable for county contracts.
Yeah, it could be linked to that, but I think it even goes even further back into the mid 90s, when there were quite a number of changes in the rules in terms of playing cricket in England, and even deals like Colpack deals and other things like that also played a factor in how players and how many foreign players came into English cricket and played for different sides. If you remember, I think even when Vibritas was playing with Ian Botham, if I recall, even Garner was also another player on that team, if I recall correctly. But no, I think most teams can only have like 1 or 2 foreign players. So that also plays a factor into it. If West Indies have more quality players as well, I think a lot more of the counties will pick them up and stuff. Ironically, in the last couple of years, a lot of the players that come and play cricket in England are usually players that are no longer in the setup in West Indies, or players who are close to the end of their careers, like Chandapal, Ravi Rampal, and others who come to England and play cricket. So it would be nice that some of the younger players who are trying to develop their game, some of those under 19, those youngsters, because that's what used to happen. A lot of those youngsters in the 19, 20, 21 age bracket, they were the ones who used to come to England and play cricket and develop their games and turn into world-class players by they turn 22, 23.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that's got more difficult because of the visa situation. But do you think that the steps to give more, at least you now have more professional contracts amongst the regional players? There's a lot more professional players now fully engaged. That number has increased dramatically, hasn't it? And the first class season has been doubled to 10 matches now. Have you seen any? Is it too early to say whether there's any improvements from that?
There have been improvements, and we have seen it starting in the bowling department. I would say Holder Gabriel and others have benefited from it. And there are other players that we are seeing coming through the system that have also benefited from it. And also the high performance center that they used to have, that a lot of the players that have come through in terms of Test cricket have come through that program. And even a lot of the T20 players and stuff that we are seeing now, a lot of them got those opportunities to play first class cricket, to play list day cricket in that professional setup that came into being, I think, around 2013, 2014 under Cameron. So a lot of the players we've seen in the last 6 years owe their start, I think, to that professional setup.
And what about, I was just thinking about some of the players who aren't here on this tour. And one of the players that's been mentioned a lot in commentary is Nicholas Puran, because he looks such a quality player. Came over and played some T20 for Yorkshire last year, and obviously has impressed everyone. Do you think that he's someone that is, you could see him in the Test match team and making and getting into playing some first class cricket?
Yeah, I would love to see Puran in him. Puran is a very class player. Even looking at him in the World Cup last year, 2019, he looked like a class player against top quality bowlers. But the problem I have with Puran is that Puran hasn't played any first class cricket in 6 years. The last first class match he played, I think, was 2014. He has only played 3 first class games, and that's first class cricket anywhere in the world. He's only played 3 first class games, and the last one is 2014. He looks good in white ball cricket, and we've seen a few anomalies like Warner step straight out of white ball cricket straight into
Joss Butler.
And I would hope something like that can happen for Puran, but still he needs time in the middle and time to play cricket, play a lot of cricket. And we see the issue with not getting a chance to work on your game outside of the Test cricket, and what it has done to Hope, who has not played any first class games outside of Test cricket in 2017. And his best years was when he was playing first class cricket. So I hope that somebody like a Puran decides to take up a contract, because he had been offered contracts in the past and he declined them. And I think one of them got him into trouble with West Indies cricket after he was picked, I think, in a professional setup, and then he went off to play some T20 league. And I think they had suspended him for a while until they came to an amicable decision to rescind that, I think, in 2016. But I would love to see him play some first class cricket. I would love to see him in the whites for West Indies. I would love to see even somebody like an Evan Lewis.
Yeah.
And there are a number of other players. I think Pollard never got enough opportunities anyway, but he's at the end of his career for me. And there are others, but for sure you have to want to play before we can pick you. And if you don't want to play, or if you don't show any indication of wanting to play, then it's really hard to just take you and just put you in that format. See what happens if you don't play long enough.
Yeah. Do you think all the fact that you've got 25 players here, some of those players would have benefited from this tour, even though they haven't been given the opportunity to play Test cricket?
For sure, because playing in that setup, a youngster playing in that setup and training, playing in those practice matches, and even going at some of these world-class batsmen and bowlers, it definitely will improve your game. And I'm looking forward to quite a number of these youngsters, persons like Shamar Holder, Da Silva, and Bonner and others, to lift their games when they come back to the Caribbean, and even when they get their opportunities in the future to stamp their class when they go on to play in Test cricket and other formats.
Indeed. Well, let's just focus back on this afternoon, just in completion then. So here, have you given up hope? Have you torn up your betting slip? I'm still backing West Indies to draw this game. Have you given up hope, Zahir?
I haven't given up hope. I think we can draw this match if the lower order, the rear guard, the Blackwood, Chase, Dulwich, Holder, stave off the English attack. It can happen, but it has made it very difficult, given that the top order once again has not produced. I think in the first innings they only produced 63 runs. And this inning, if you look at the top 4, I don't think they have produced much better than that. And taking out Roach, who was the night watchman. So we definitely need some runs from them. We need them to stay off. I think we have approximately 70-something overs left. So they definitely need to do that. And yeah, I think they can draw the match. The odds are in their favor to draw this match. It's more likely a draw than definitely more than likely a win. But England are definitely favorites. But they can.
Zahir, thank you very much for joining us today and for all your help and all the stats throughout the series, Zahir. It's been great to have you as part of the Gorilla cricket team, and hope to see you again on future broadcasts.
Yeah, David. And hopefully, I think we might be back again with that T20 Ultimate Team again.
Oh, yes, of course. Well done, Zahir. See you soon. Thanks a lot, Guy. Thanks very much indeed. Back to Nakul.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Zahir. Wonderful work. I'm joined by I'm Nakul Mpande, and I'm joined by Jono Gordon and Mashel St Patrick Hewitt for the first 40 minutes or so of the second session. We've lost no overs today, so we've got 80.3 overs remaining today, maximum for England to take these 5 wickets. They need to regain the Wisden Trophy and take the series 1-0. West Indies 84 for 5, needing a further theoretical 315 to win, but more realistically, it's 80.3 overs to not lose 5 wickets. I'm Nakul Mpande here on Gorilla Cricket. I'm joined, as I say, Jono Gordon summarising, who's on mute.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gents. How are you?
Yeah, it's all good. And Mashel St Patrick Hewitt, where's that bag, man?
Yeah, it's finished. This game's over.
It's out of the bag. So something is out of the bag. We'll have all of that and more. We'll have as I say, we haven't lost any overs, which is good news. They took that early lunch. We're resuming in the middle of a Jofra Archer over, his 4th of the morning, the 24th of the innings, and here he is.
And now it's time for Jofra Archer.
And he'll be bowling to this flashy and powerful right-hander. Blackwood faces up to Jofra Archer, who bowls fullish outside off stump. A little bit of swing away from the right-hander, who leaves alone through to Joss Butler. There is no run. And we'll jingle up Jermaine Blackwood's partner, the man at the non-striker's end, who's on 5 off 9. Blackwood is on 3 off 10 now.
Austin cheese and what do you get? Cricketer, a village in Somerset.
Archer in bowls outside off stump from the Brian Statham end. A little bit of nibble into the right-hander off the seam, and a little bit of sharp bounce as well. Blackwood hurriedly blocks back to the bowler. There is no run. Interesting that Archer's being asked, as he was before, well, he's finishing this over, but Archer was asked to bowl into the wind.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite a slight fella, isn't he? So, I mean, you'd expect him to cut through it. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to probably drop his pace down by a couple of miles an hour, you'd think.
It looks as though he's bowling in the high 80s, looking for swing, and that one nibbles a little bit, and a poor bit of fielding by, I think that's Rory Burns at cover, usually in the gully, but it bounces off him to mid-off. There is no run. Archer finishes not quite a maiden, 1 run off an over that took 45 minutes to bowl. Terrible over rate. West Indies 84 for 5. Mashel, what we got on social media?
We have got lots of people talking between themselves, so I'll ignore those ones. Muckley's back. Says, Wolf, welcome back after lunch, folks. Construction, his Lego cars that he's making is on number 2. Jules says you've got to keep it real. Sometimes you have to enjoy a hard-fought draw. This isn't one of them occasions, but the sentiment is still the same. I think that's about the tweet about, let me remind myself, that was in response to the Gorilla Cricket handle saying, where's the respect for the draw? Oh, because Pink Ball fan says something about DLS.
Yeah, Duckworth Lewis Stern rain adjusted test matches. Actually, I don't think you need to mess with the fabric of the game that much. This man, who's taken 2 for 15 in his 4 overs from the James Anderson end before lunch, is continuing. Interesting to see whether England go with Archer continuing at this end, the Statham end rather.
He's on Instagram.
In he comes, hair flapping with under that headband. Oh, it's an absolute beauty to start with. A little bit of nibble into the right-hander in the air, and then held its line, jagged off the seam. Ruston Chase well and truly beaten on the outside edge. A beauty to start with from Wokes. There is no run.
So, Mash, I find it interesting. What are your thoughts? Obviously, as a West Indies cricket fan, at times, although some people might not always believe it. What are you looking for from this second session? I mean, you've got to be looking at the loss of one, absolute two maximum. If you go
one for us.
In comes Wokes, and that one swings into the right-hander as well, and Chase hurriedly blocks, getting down from his height to block that one that kept a little bit low as he's kept on the crease into the mid-wicket region. There is no run. Big grin on Christopher Roger Wokes' face.
This game to have any kind of excitement in it after tea, only one wicket can fall in this session. Yeah. And then I think if you've got Holder, Dowrich and Cornwall to come, you can legitimately believe, with rain, the West Indies could maybe pull off a draw.
Wokes in again, big in swing into the right-hander. That's nicely played by Chase. He just drops the bat on it and times it very nicely. A long and weary chase for James Anderson from mid-off. Escorts it partway back to the boundary, and they come through for 2. Chase moves to 7. West Indies 86 for 5.
Do you know what it is, Jono? Because I know you said before that you were like, some people might think that I'm not a West Indies fan because West Indian fans by default, we're not I think critical is the wrong word. We're realistic. We're harsh, but we're realistic about the fortunes of the team. And I think sometimes people get confused because we don't completely back them.
In comes the sun through the clouds at Old Trafford. It's been a weird kind of day weather-wise. We've had all of the weather at once. Wokes bowls a little wider on the crease and a little bit wider of off stump. A little bit of swing in, but mostly after it passed the stumps through to keeper Josh Butler, who takes it low above his left foot. There is no run. Oh boy, there's some very, very dark clouds over Old Trafford, but you can see how strongly the breeze is blowing. You see those flags blowing towards the offside as Wokes is bowling from this end. Or any weather, good or bad, is going to blow through pretty quickly. This one holds its line, and Chase holds his shape, playing inside the line, past the outside edge, through to the keeper. There is no run. Zahir Clark, our resident Stato, who's still in our Zoom chat, which is good to see. According to Google, whose current probability, who do win probabilities, I'm not sure where they get their data from. Maybe it's WinViz. England win 89%, draw just under 11%. West Indies win 0.1%.
You think it's the
as Wokes is in outside off stump, left alone by Chase through to the keeper. There is no run. 2 runs off the over. West Indies 86 for 5. You're a bit quiet, Jono.
All right, sorry. Mash, do you think that obviously English sporting fans often complain of getting super excited about things only to be let down? Is it a similar thing from a West Indian point of view, or like when you say you're realistic, do you try not to get too excited? Whereas the English sporting fans, you think about World Cups and football tournaments, we get so excited, think, it's got to be our time, but then it never is. Is it a similar perspective from a West Indian point of view?
I can't speak for all West Indians, but I believe that my version of realism is I don't even expect us to win a test match. So going in with that attitude, I'm always very, very happy and surprised when it takes place. T20, however, completely different scenario. We're one of the best teams in the world when it comes to that format. So my quibble...
Archer is going to continue, and he starts with one that's a little bit too straight, and Blackwood is able to nudge it from in front of middle stump into the onside. They come through for a single. Look, I think sporting fans, wherever you're from or whatever sport you are in, there is a section of sporting fandom which tends towards the pessimistic and the sort of self-protective, reflexive pessimism.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't see it as pessimism with the West Indies. Listen, I've got 20 years of evidence for this. So whenever I say it, everyone's always like, "Oh, you're pessimistic." I'm like, look at the facts. We rarely win.
In comes Archer from the Statham end, a bouncer, which Chase does well to get bat and gloves out of the way of the first genuinely short ball we've seen from Jofra Archer, and through to Josh Butler it goes. There is no run.
I was saying earlier on comms, Mash, that if the West Indies were to draw this test off the back of what I see as a negative declaration again from Joe Root, is my own personal view. That, if you guys were to walk away with the draw, you would be cock a hoop. You'd be celebrating as if you won the series 3-0. I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Before the series, and the thing is, before the series, I thought we would win one test match. So again, if people think I'm pessimistic, I actually thought we'd win one test in this series, and we have.
Somehow it looks a lot darker from this end than it did from the other. Oh, that's a horrible delivery from Archer to Chase to deal with. Jags in from a good length and hits Roston Chase high on the back thigh. That would have taken. That will be a bruise in the morning. Archer just shortened his run up a little bit there by a pace or so, but no lack of zip off the wicket.
He does that sometimes, I think, just to confuse the batsman and just be on them, if that makes any kind of sense.
As Archer's in again, and again a little bit of extra zip, but a little bit wider of our stump, and Chase can leave on the back foot. On length, there is no run. Only 84 miles an hour, but it certainly didn't look 84 miles an hour. It looked a hell of a lot quicker than that.
We also need to remember that, in theory, the West Indies are only 4 down, in the sense that, Roach, who's a number 10, came out as the night watchman and, pretty much, well, not quite did his job, but there's still some faith.
Archer in a full swinging delivery, which Chase manages to block up to Stuart Broad, who doesn't appear to see it until the last minute, rather like a goalkeeper seeing a free kick come through the wall, but manages to get down low to his left and field. There is no run. Interesting over from Archer this. A couple of short balls, then one fuller. I wonder if this will just be hung outside off stump for those 2 slips in the gully to snare. There's a backward point cover mid-off and mid-on as well, and presumably a man back at long leg. Last ball of the over from Archer, a little bit wider on the crease. It is fullish outside off stump, and Chase plays it well, getting on the front foot. Doesn't time it though. Up to mid-off it goes. There is no run. A maiden from Archer. West Indies 87 for 5.
In this situation, Matt.
Sorry, not a maiden. 1 run.
Obviously, I've just alluded to the fact that Roach obviously came out as night watchman, but I think a lot of people are of the opinion, as am I, that Roach is a pretty solid number 10, and so if you have got to bat 10 or 15 overs to save a game, then he's probably the kind of tail ender that you'd want there at that point.
You do lose a few overs of solid block with Kumar Roach not available to you now.
Yeah, 100%. But I think, as Zahir alluded to just at the end there, before lunch ended, this is the strongest part of the West Indies batting lineup. The top order's a waste of space, so this is the strongest part now.
Still just the 2 slips on the gully for Chris Wokes to Jermaine Blackwood as he's in. A little wider on the crease this time. Short, and Blackwood tries to cut. That didn't really get up, and he's lucky that the bottom edge just dribbled through to Joss Butler harmlessly outside off stump. There is no run. We should get to some social media, shouldn't we? And let me ping you over the cricket tracker link.
I'm going to give people some time because we're still waiting for some to come through. So end of the over, please, people. Send your tweets in.
Yeah, good stuff. And we got some people. We got a lot of people following us and watching us on Hot Mic. We've hit 150 followers on Hot Mic now, which is excellent.
I forgot that Hot Mic. I'll go to that now.
In comes Wokes, second ball of the over, and Blackwood doesn't really know what to do with this until he's on him. Is not. The throw has gone to the wrong end. Has it? There's a run out appeal as cover has hit the stumps at the striker's end. Blackwood called Chase through for a run that probably wasn't on. He stopped and started, and it looks like he sold Roston Chase down the river. That was a terrible bit of non-calling from Blackwood and Chase. It was just a jab into the offside from Jermaine Blackwood. And then he called Roston Chase through for the single. I thought the throw had gone to the wrong end because he was really struggling at the non-striker's end, but it's a brilliant bit of fielding from Dominic Bess at backward point, picking up one-handed, hit the stumps directly, only had one stump to aim at, and Roston Chase is gone for all money. An absolute calamity from the West Indies. Chase gone for 7, West Indies 87 for 6.
There must be a run out here. Oh, how tragic. How tragic, how tragic, how tragic.
Run out by Bess, assist by Blackwood.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's something in that particular column will be too proud of. It looked almost like the length of the ball surprised him a little bit. It almost pushed him back, and then he kind of went but then didn't. But a superb piece of fielding to kind of then throw across himself away from the direction in which his weight's going. So a fantastic piece of fielding by Dominic Bess, but obviously I'm sure Mash that to lose Chase, who's had a reasonable series with the bat, is obviously a huge disappointment at this stage.
Kind of done how he did Joe Root in the first innings, picking up one-handed and hitting from backward point. Where did that come from? That didn't seem necessary or coming.
I think Chase reacted slowly, if I'm honest. Granted, Blackwood started and stopped, so yeah, maybe you have to blame Blackwood for it, but it is what it is.
I think they probably would have expected Best to throw at the non-strikers end, though. So I think if Blackwood's committed and seen Chase commit, he probably would have also thought, well, in that split second, if I'm to blame here, I've got to go to the danger end, which they probably would have presumed would have been the non-strikers end. So
I think it was the easier run out, was at the non-strikers end in many ways, but it's such a bad call that both batters could have been out. Well, this does bring a new man to the wicket. It is the man on whom so many hopes have relied in the West Indies for so long, and he lunges forward and blocks to the hero of the hour, Dominic Bess, for no run.
Jason Holder.
Run out by so far, there was never going to be any need to go upstairs.
Absolutely not. Funnily, just some of the jingles are obviously, I think, are fantastic. My wife came into me during the lunch break, and she's on quite an important conference call this morning, and the only thing that's running through her head is Alzare Jose.
And just to make matters worse for the West Indies, a ball after that run out, we've gone off for rain again.
Oh no, that's good. That's not worse.
But every rain break seems to bring another wicket for the West Indies. So we go off again. West Indies 87 for 6 now, with Jermaine Blackwood having sold Roston Chase down the river, run out brilliantly at backward point by Dominic Bess. England still need 4 wickets to win. The West Indies have a maximum of 77.3 overs to survive, and we're into probably just another short period of wibble.
If the rain comes, they stop playing bloody cricket.
Oh god, that was an awful single. Even if they'd both gone immediately, they might not have made it.
Yeah, it was a no yes. I mean, you watch Blackwood there on the coverage, and it's weird. If you watch him when he actually makes contact with the ball, it does look like it surprised him. It's pushed him back in his crease. So then to try and run a quick single when your weight's all going back is incredibly hard to then generate that forward momentum that you need to, especially to run a quick single again, when the skill levels of the international lads are, with their fielding.
Yeah, it was a very good piece of work from Dom Bess, because it didn't go straight at him. He had to make up a yard or two to his right, but he picked it up one-handed and threw on the run. It was absolutely perfect technique from him, which we haven't always seen from the ground fielding. I think the fact that there's been a truncated preparation period has probably affected the fielding of both teams, but we've seen a couple of run-outs in this series as those of in this match as those have picked up with a little bit of extra prep time. But yeah, just a bad decision, a probably unnecessary decision. I'm not sure there's much mileage in trying to sneak a quick single. Even if they'd gone immediately, they wouldn't have made it. And yeah, the first thing that happened in all of that, as ever with run-outs, there's so much to commentate, but Blackwood didn't appear to see it until late. He suddenly saw, I don't know whether to go forward, don't know whether to go back, jab!
Yeah.
Well, they haven't shown the angle from Chase's run-in, and I still think Chase is to blame there. He's the one who sees where the ball is going. So if there's a no, he needs to make it clear there's a no. Blackwood's looking at it sideways. Chase is seeing the ball in live action go into Dom Bess. So I think we're being a bit harsh on Blackwood there to say he shouldn't have called the run or etc.
Somebody should have said no.
I think with Chase, as you rightly point out, Mash, I think that although he's got a much better view of it, I think that as soon as Bess picks it up and picks it up cleanly, then Chase knows. I mean, he's either in or he's out. Butler's never getting anywhere near the stumps. It's a direct hit, or he will remain at the crease. But I mean, the lads, as we can see, the English lads have not made their way up into the changing room. They're just sitting by the side of the boundary. So I don't think they expect this to be an extended rain break. But the groundsmen are certainly earning the money today, lads.
Yeah, albeit in fits and starts. I mean, you're always taught as a school kid that when it goes behind square, it's the non-striker's call, but Blackwood knows the weight of that off the bat. A loud no shout from Blackwood stops that becoming an issue.
Yeah. I think Duncan Fletcher always said to batsmen, I don't want to see you walk back into this changing room if you run out without putting a dive in. I mean, unless you're stranded kind of a third of the way down, you're not just going to flop on the middle of the wicket. But, you know, I think he was widely recognised as saying, don't come back into the dressing room if you run out, you know, on a tight run out without having dive.
That's very club cricket, isn't it? Dirty whites. A dive wouldn't have helped Ruston Chase on that occasion. Here we go. Let's go to some tweets.
Thank you. Yes. Leo says, "Oh gods of thunder, of wind and rain." Yeah, that ain't saving West Indies today. This is over. Muttley, remembering 04 when New Zealand were in England in a tri-series of West Indies, and West Indies went on to win the Champions Trophy. Still lived in New Zealand, and up in the middle of the night. As much as I was rooting for England, the look of sheer joy on players' faces said it all as they did the lap of honour. Yes, that's when Courtney Brown and Ian Bradshaw won it from a game they should never have won.
In the dark.
England blew it, basically, as much as West Indies won it. Leah says, so the hope is that 3 more rain breaks take us to stumps. If West Indies can survive just one session and another rain break, they give themselves a chance after tea. They still will lose, but if they can, it makes it a bit more exciting.
Well, I mean, you were talking, guys, about West Indies only needing to lose one more wicket. You don't need self-inflicted injuries like this.
Yeah, but I still think we're giving. I think we're giving too much hype over the run out here. The damage is already done by a failing top order. So I'm not really bothered. They just self-inflicted.
That's fine, but don't make it worse for yourselves where you don't need to.
Yeah, but it's one run out of. It's one wicket in 5 that's already gone. Like, okay, did you really think that West Indies have it within them to bat out 2 full sessions?
Look, they've got talented players and lads who can dig in. Look, you know, sometimes your middle order, your lower middle order, you've got, you know, people. We came into this series saying Dowrich at 8, Holder at 7. That, you know, it's a deep lineup. So I don't think all is lost. Obviously, the weather might come into it, but I do think there needs to remain a little bit of faith for the West Indies. I understand your disappointment at the top order failing again, Mash, but you know, let's.
Oh no, I haven't given up. I'll never give up. I'm just always. I think
it's improbable, isn't it? Look,
I'm like Winviz. I'm looking at the realistic aspects of it.
Look, I mean,
they're still away.
Yeah, you and I talked about this. Yeah, the West Indies top order is weak, and it has been for a while. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't aim to make the best decision at all possible points thereafter. And
correct. But here's the counter to that. If you continually, as a top order, put pressure on your middle and lower order to rescue you again and again and again, I'm not going to dig out the lower and middle order. They have to do this pretty much every single innings, and I think it's yes, it's the run out's nonsense, and both of them have to look at themselves. But in the grand scheme of the series, Chase, until he just got run out now, and Blackwood probably had the best averages in the team, so you know, I think I'll let them off for this one.
I've made this point a few times, and I'll make it again. The batsman that I've been most impressed with, having watched all 3 games, is Shamar Brooks. I think he's batted fluently. I think he's been solid. You know, he's had a couple of 60s. He hasn't gone on to score have a massive knock, but. I mean, this rain break now looks like it might be slightly more extended. The England players, along with the West Indies, have now made their way up to the dressing room. So
excellent.
Might be slightly longer, but we are still 2 hours from tea. You know, with these extended sessions due to the loss of time yesterday. I tell you, it'll be one hell of a result for the West Indies if they manage to draw this. But the weather can certainly play a part in helping them to achieve that.
I throw something in here though, which I do think is worth noting. And again, I feel like I have to prefix everything I say with, I'm just trying to be realistic. But they threw up a stat on Sky when we were talking before. The following players in the England top order average over 40 in first-class cricket. Burns, Sibley, Root and Pope, and then Stokes averages 36. All I'm going to say to people is go and look at everybody in the West Indies batting lineup and find me one person who averages over 40 in first-class cricket. And then I know the stats, so I'm going to wait for you to come back to me. So find me the one who averages over 40 and find me one who averages over 35. And again, this doesn't mean that we mustn't criticise things like the run out or when West Indies do poorly. But I think people have to be mindful that when you're comparing these two sides in how they play cricket, in a football equivalent, this would be like Chelsea playing Brighton. 1 in every 100 times, the weaker team is going to pull off a victory. 1 in every 100. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Maybe 2, maybe 5 in every 10 if you want to really want to hype it up. But generally speaking, the longer you play a series, the more the weaker side gets found out. Is that not correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly in Test cricket, where there's so long for those disparities and those weaknesses to exert themselves.
And then just before you come in, John, just to end the point. So you're right, Brooks has looked solid, and if you look at Brooks's first-class game over the last 3 years, particularly in the Caribbean, last season he was poor, but that hasn't affected him for this particular series. Brooks is someone who's developed his game in first-class cricket. He's captained the A-team. He's gone on plenty of A-team tours. He's had the natural progression through. But the one thing West Indian batsmen struggle to do in international cricket, and have done as long as I can remember with this side, is they struggle massively. Getting a 50 is like getting 100 for them. So they're at that stage where they still can't consistently do anything from 50 to 100 in terms of converting. Of the 17 centuries the top 6 have got, Brathwaite's got half of them.
No, I mean the only point that I'd make, having taken a much bigger interest in West Indies cricket, first class cricket in the last kind of year or so, based on my relationship with Josh, and tracking the 50 over regional tournament last winter, I wonder, the pitches in England are much more conducive, I would suggest, to allowing batsmen to score more freely. So there's a lot of very slow wickets in the West Indies that are turning early doors in both first class and one day white ball cricket. And I don't think that, look, this all ties back into the fact that there's not enough money being pumped into West Indies cricket, so therefore the ground preparation isn't as
hold that thought while we talk of ground preparation. The stumps have been pitched again, the covers are all off, and it looks considerably better at Old Trafford, so we should be getting back out quite a bit sooner. A West Indies spokesperson has just confirmed that Shane Dowrich is okay to bat today, which I think we already knew, but good to have confirmation. I'm right in thinking, Mashal, that the pitches have actually got quite a bit better in the West Indies in the last couple of years because they brought in some outside help.
So the last season, the one literally just gone, where Blackwood top scored, has probably been the best that it's been for batsmen. The worry for me was that when you look at the bowlers, it was still spinners who were at the top. Granted, players like Jamal Holder took 36 wickets, but the top bowler in the tournament was still Vasami Permol, who is consistently one of the top bowlers in the tournament. And I always get concerned about any tournament, domestic tournament, where a spinner always dominates it. I think Vasami Permol took 50 wickets, and then I think Akil Hussain was second with
Jamal Holder was second with 36. It's a big jump.
So the point being that any tournament where a spinner is way out in front suggests the pitches still have quite a lot of work to be done on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not comparing West Indies pitches from the last 12 months, let's say, to the West Indies pitches over the last 10 years. My point at the start was that I think that pitches in the West Indies are not as conducive to batsmen doing well as probably they are in here.
You're right, you're correct, 100%. And the only reason I mentioned last year, John, is that's the first time. Like, your point is valid. In the last 6-7 years, the whole point was they weren't preparing batsmen. And that's why I make that point about they are not used to batting long innings.
Yeah.
And then we suddenly get them in Test cricket and everyone starts bemoaning what they're doing. And I'm like, but what did you expect?
If it's about
players don't tend to do better immediately at the level above what they've been playing at.
I think as a batsman, if you go out on any given day thinking that there's one with your name on it, and as any batsman, whether you're Andrew Strauss or when England go and play in the subcontinent, they all know that if the ball's turning, there's one with their name on it, and that's why they prepare turning wickets. And that can only be said, the same can be said for the top order batters across all the different regional sides in the West Indies. Even their opening batters prefer to play against pace. And if you're facing spinners in the 6th or the 8th over of the day, because the wickets that are being produced either through fault of anybody or through no fault of anybody, because of the lack of money available to prepare them properly, top order batsmen are going to struggle because they're not, they will always go out.
And we've seen this in England with the preparation with the early season wickets being green nibbly seamers through the first couple of weeks of the season or months of the season for years, up until in the last couple of years. And any change that you make in that regard to first class pitches takes a few years to kick in, and let's hope the West Indies can continue this improvement in pitches over the last couple of years. We are back out there. Chris Wokes is going to continue this over, which has seen the end of Roston Chase run out by Dominic Bess. Direct hit with one stump to aim up from backward point after a yes-no sorry between he and Jermaine Blackwood. West Indies are 87 for 6, partway through the 27th over. Chris Wokes has 3 balls left of this over. From the Brian Statham end, bowling to the West Indies captain Jason Holder, who's on not out. He's in right arm over, and Holder solidly forward as though the break never happened, and blocks to Dom Sibley at cover. There is no run.
I'd like to say, ultimately, because I can always balance the reality with the positivity, all is not lost with this side. They're still they're not young anymore, but internationally they're young as far as I'm concerned. They're still a developing side. They'll know now that, I think David said it earlier on.
In comes Wokes, 5th ball of the over, wider on the crease, a little bit back of a length this time, not allowing Holder to lunge forward with that big stride of his. Blocked back to the bowler, there is no run. And also there's strength in depth. There are good players not playing in this series for various reasons.
Yeah, and I think that's not been said enough, that West Indies haven't come over here with their best side. I think people have kind of conveniently forgotten that. You don't leave someone like Shimron Hetmeyer at home. Well, obviously didn't want to come.
Or Darren Bravo. Last ball of the over. Beautiful shot from Jason Holder. Good bit of fielding by Sibley at cover, directing it to Anderson at mid-off, who flings the ball back in to the non-strikers. And Holder is home. He'll take the strike for the next over, which will presumably be bowled by Archer. He's on 1, Blackwood on 4. West Indies 88 for 6. England need just 4 wickets in a further theoretical 77 overs to win the match and win the series.
Nash, in terms of, we talk about Hetmeyer and Darren Bravo, obviously 2 of the better players in the West Indian setup. Who would not have played had those 2 have been on the tour, because they are undoubtedly, you would think, in the first choice 11.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. So Shamar Brooks has probably cemented his place now by being one of the more compact batsmen, risky batsmen in the team. So actually, when they next play Test Series, I don't see 2 people getting... Well, Campbell's going to get dropped, but not for Bravo or Hetmeyer. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Campbell's finished, Hope is finished. That's certain. There is an argument that given Hetmeyer opened as a youngster, that they might try and change him to be an opener. I wouldn't do it. Cool. I think that'd be a very poor decision to make, but he has opened for Guyana before, so you never know.
2 slips in the gully, backward point, cover mid-on, and 2 men back on the hook for Archer, who bowls to Jason Holder. A little bit of outswing this time, and Archer is driven by Holder up to Anderson at mid-off, desperately trying to put shine on the ball with that big oversized jumper of his. There is no run.
But
to me,
sorry, go on.
So it looks to me, just early after this rain break, I didn't really pay much attention to it before the rain break, but it looks like Holder's taking a big step across his stumps here and trying to take the nick or the bowled out of play.
Here's a big movement back and across. That's a beauty from Archer. Just kept on going and never ever came into Holder at the rate he was expecting and beats the outside edge through to the keeper. There is no run. Yeah, he's got a very obvious trigger movement, Jono, back and across to get in line with off stump.
I think certainly for a period I decided to, when it was cool and everyone was doing it, I decided to bat on middle and off, with the idea being that I would always back myself to hit a straight ball.
Archer is in, back of a length, and Holder nudges this nicely into the onside, takes a single up to mid on, there is no run. Just that previous ball that beat the outside edge, Archer deliberately bowled it with a scrambled seam to try and stop it swinging, I think. So Archer showing his skills already. It's bowled better than his figures have suggested in this Test match.
Yeah, I think he's obviously, you put yourself more at risk of an LBW, but if you back yourself to hit the straight one, then you're probably taking bowled out of play by big trigger.
As Archer is in, bowling very tight to the stumps, a bouncer which loops harmlessly over Jermaine Blackwood's head through to the keeper. There is no run. I mean, that's what Steve Smith feasts on bowlers trying to get him out LBW, and basically I think he went years without getting an LBW before he was sort of on 50 or 80. Virat Kohli similarly minus Lavashane as well. Archer, if he's going to bowl short, needs to bowl just that little bit fuller to try and get the ball rising from a length. What will he do with this 5th ball over the over? He'll bowl, that is pretty much that delivery, back of a length, and forcing Blackwood onto the back foot, and he blocks back to the bowler. There is no run.
Blackwood's almost got to play in what I would describe as almost an alien innings to him. You know, he's got to play within himself here, because, you know, he loves to play his shots. There was someone, I think Michael Atherton was saying the other day, that, you know, if you're in the ring, you're fielding in the ring, 30-yard circle, you always feel like you're in the game with Blackwood, just because of the way he plays.
In comes Archer, last ball of the over, a short ball which Blackwood does not play well at all, gets into a horrible tangle. That might prompt a short leg to come in the first ball of the next over. It drops down in front of him. There is no run. West Indies 89 for 6.
Eagle Scooter says, "Hey everyone, just joining you after an enjoyable game of handball tonight. Sadly, looks like I've missed all the fun."
There's fun to come. We might get actually less interrupted fun, because I think the forecast was for the weather to be a bit less changeable as the afternoon wore on. Handball is a fun sport to watch. Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it?
Probably reflective of the school I went to as a teenager, but I played fives.
Oh, yeah. Wide on the crease goes Wokes down the leg side. A big appeal from Joss Butler, and Richard Kettleborough says nothing doing, no leg side strangle. England and West Indies both have 3 reviews remaining. Nobody seems particularly convinced by this, but England have reviewed it. There was a big appeal from Joss Butler behind the stumps, but not from anybody else, it would appear.
I'll be reviewing the opposition, 'cause those reviews exist to extend my career.
Down the leg side from Chris Wokes. That's absolutely miles away from that. That's an awful review.
'Cause if I don't, then someone else might use it, get a second chance and
Cancel that. I suppose when you've got 3 wicket reviews left and you've only got 4 wickets to take, you can afford to burn a review, but they weren't appealing for LBW. They were appealing for a catch down the leg side, but his bat was a good stump width away from the pad. So nothing doing, review lost. West Indies 89 for 6. Wokes has the ball in hand. The Alice band holding those luscious locks back. Oi! And he beats Holder on the outside edge this time. A little hint of straightening past the outside edge of Jason Holder, who then practices the Steve Smith leave. There is no run.
Talking of wasting the occasional review and it coming back to bite you on the backside, does anybody remember a certain Nathan Lyon at Headingley last year?
Well, indeed. Yes, although obviously you've got an extra review this time. 2 slips and a gully, pretty much the same field actually. There's a short-ish mid-wicket in place for Jason Holder as Wokes comes in, goes wide on the crease. A slash from Holder, almost a wide Yorker. Holder had a slash at it but gets it wide of gully down to the 3rd man boundary for 4. A little bit aerial but nowhere near a fielder.
I think the problem that you sometimes find when I talk about batting and taking a big trigger or batting on off stump is you almost find yourself playing for the balls that wide that you would normally play from 6 inches straight, if that makes sense. You have to be really disciplined and leave a lot more. You know where your head's in line with off stump, so in theory you can leave anything that's outside your eye line.
But that was the full length that drew that stroke. It's just that full you want to have a drive at it, and Holder's feet for once didn't really go anywhere. He goes back and across. That's the ball he wants, really. That was on middle stump, and he just nudges this away into the onside. They will take 2. Good running from Holder and Blackwood. The throw comes in, not particularly accurate. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. Holder moves to 8. West Indies 95 for 6. It's a bit of a sigh from you, Mashal.
Yeah, you know. seen this so many times before. But after this ball, I'll go back to a point you raised earlier. It might be in Jono actually.
We've got the two slips, we've got the gully, we've got the short-ish mid-wicket. That's a leg stump half volley from Chris Wokes, and Holder flicks it away nicely. Archer's not going to get there from long leg to deep backward square leg. 4 runs.
Sorry, Mash, just before you do that, I think that watching Wokes bowl there, I think the way in which Holder's moving across his crease, they're going to bowl for that one that he misses. That's going to be LBW without question. Runs are not an issue for England here. Let's be quite frank. So if he does turn it into an half volley that he clubs for 4 through backward square leg.
Last ball of the over, and that is a big shout for LBW. Kettleborough gives it. It's quite straight. Holder's reviewed it immediately. This might be missing leg. Let's have a look.
That was out. That was out. That was definitely out. Was that definitely out? I don't know.
Sorry, Marshall.
Saying if he's reviewed it immediately, I presume he thinks he's gone inside edge on it. I don't know why else he would. Does that look
Not a no ball. Wokes has only bowled 2 no balls in his entire Test career, as we found out the other day, because that was the second of them. It's come into Jason Holder. He's not hit it, judging by that replay. It's hit him on the front pad, which is slightly to the leg side of the back pad. It's hit him on sort of middle and leg. I don't think it's going over the top. He's got a stride in-ish. The bat is a long way from the pad. It's hit him sort of on the inside part of the pad, below the knee roll. Tall man, of course. I don't think it's going over the top of the stumps. Not sure whether the West Indies captain has got this one right. What do you think? Hitting leg?
Highest call at worst.
Yeah, at worst, yeah, exactly. It's out.
Big in swing. It's hit him in line. Top of leg stump. West Indies lose their captain, lose their first review, lose their 7th wicket. Chris Wokes has 3, and it's all falling apart for the West Indies late in this admirable fighting series for them.
Oh.
Chris Wokes continues to be absolutely unplayable in England.
I think that's almost perfect timing for what I'd said the ball before. That England are willing to concede boundaries in order to get that LBW when they miss one. Certainly taking such a stride across his stump, back and across there, Jason Holder protects him for the balls that are outside off stump, but does leave him in danger of. If he does miss a straight one.
You can overcorrect sometimes in these situations. You're trying to cover all bases sometimes. We'll go one more over, then we'll have a change. Jono's going to come on to ball by ball, then Dave B is on tweets, and Bear's going to come and replace me, but we'll get one more over in the West Indies. 99 for 7. Jason Holder gone for 12 off 13 balls.
What was the? What were you going to bring up, Mash?
But now let me just quickly do it. I think either Knackle or yourself were talking about. I think it was yourself actually about who would replace who and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think the situation is and why West Indies is so weak batting wise. And actually in the Gorilla podcast I did with Knackle prior to this series, I think I said to Knackle that we won't pass 250 many times. And here's yet another innings of that being an example. The problem is. So England have a Sydney, for example, boring to watch, but at least knows how to leave the ball. We haven't got that. We've got Brathwaite, but we haven't got another good opener. Then England had Denley, criticised by everyone, but you may remember that I said I'd love to have a Denley in the West Indies team. Occupies the crease, takes the shine off the new ball. We just have Shea Hope as a walking wicket.
In comes Archer, who beats Jermaine Blackwood, who goes for the big booming drive. Hendo was talking about him not really getting his weight into the drive, and that's a little bit of an example. There was a stride in sort of, but he's leaning back as he tries to play that, and the Archer beats the outside edge. I wonder if Blackwood's just going to start throwing the bat. He's got a man with a very sore face at the other end who will jingle up when he's on strike.
Indeed.
England lead by West Indies need exactly 300, or more likely, England are exactly 299 ahead. Back of a length outside off stump, rising a little bit from that length, and Blackwood leaves, good lead, through to Just Butler. There is no run.
But also what this has shown, again, is regarding the West Indies' balance of their batting lineup in general. This is why Holder and Dowrich will always bat 7 and 8, because they know that they're coming in as they're facing a new ball a lot of the time. Why sacrifice Holder and Dowrich going up to 6 and 7?
I'm not a fan ever of changing a bit of the team that is working to try and hide a bit that isn't. Back of a length and Archer on the back foot, blocking back to the bowler. There is no run. Blackwood off the back foot, rather, blocking back to Archer. There is no run. I'm never a fan of compromising a strength to make up for a weakness.
The thing is, we've got no strength or weakness. We've got no. The strength is the bowling. The bowling would be better if Holder moved up, but the batting.
Would the bowling be better if Holder moved up?
Yeah, because it allows us to play another bowler.
Possibly. Fourth ball of the over from Archer. Short ball. Blackwood's flailed this into the leg side. There's no one at leg slip or leg gully, so it lands safely. But Blackwood's not done anything to dissuade Joe from putting in a leg slip, and now he is going to put in a leg slip to this man who, having been smashed in the face by his own bowler, now has to face Jofra Archer. Poor bugger. Dowrich got worked over with a short ball in the first test, and he got worked over by Jofra Archer in the first innings. As for some reason, we're seeing to be fair to him, very skilled hula hooper on the tram platform at Old Trafford. I think he's playing some sort of musical instrument while he's doing it, which is bloody impressive. I'm not really sure what that was in aid of, though. West Indies 100 for 7 with that flailed single. Dowrich facing up to Archer. You can see that swollen lip under his helmet. The short leg's gone in place. The leg gully's gone in place at the back of the length. That's nicely played by Dowrich. Gets up tall and rides the bounce and works it between the short leg and the leg gully down to long leg. They come through for a single. One more ball till that change.
It's almost like Dowrich knows exactly what's coming as well. Like, you almost need to play the double bluff, because they set a field that they're going to bowl short at him. He's got a sore face. Even though he knows he's got a helmet on, subconsciously he'll be backing off from it a little bit. But why not just throw the Yorker in early doors? He's going to be camped on his back foot, you'd think.
Very possibly, or maybe it's just the bouncer, then the Yorker and the full ball outside off stump, and Blackwood does a weird sort of jumping leave at this stroke. Leaves alone through to the keeper. There is no run. Archer wicketless but threatening. West Indies 101 for 7 thanks to the excellence of Stuart Broad, and now Chris Woakes. We'll say goodbye to Mashal for now, and we'll bring in Jono onto ball by ball, and David on to tweets.
David, talk to me, my friend. What are you thinking?
What am I thinking? I'm thinking that it's been poor from West Indies today, and ever so slightly predictable since the second test, and not fronting up, batting first in either of those games. Yeah, I think that's where things went sadly wrong for West Indies. But what are you thinking, Johnny? You're thinking happy thoughts about champagne, maybe a glass of vino with the bear, toasting the... In fact, I would like to toast the bear for a brilliant Zoom production.
Well, thanks very much, Dave.
Just stood on the back foot there, Dowrich, and almost tried to slap it through extra cover. Fielded in that position, and there is no run.
What did I say, Jono? Tea, mate. Tea.
Well, I've just spoken to our esteemed... I've just texted our esteemed guest to see if he may be able to come on earlier, because we might not get as far as...
Well, that's... that did occur to me.
So I'll just wait for him to get back to me. As Woakes in again, past the umpire. Full ball this time to Dowrich. Short mid-wicket jumps to try and take the catch, but that is worked its way out to the mid-wicket boundary, and they will come back for 2.
You kind of feel they're getting a bit slap happy here, don't you? And it's just all going to fall very quickly.
Funny, I think the first ball after Holder's departure, Blackwood played the most audacious drive, and I think he's probably just thought, right, I'm just going to play my natural game.
Well,
here.
Exactly.
I do think, David, we're kind of getting on the backs of the West Indian players here a little bit. I think that the wicket has deteriorated as Wokes is in again to Shane Dowrich, who kind of plays the jumping back foot, no solid base defence back down the wicket for no run. I wonder are we being overly harsh? I know obviously he's a West Indian cricket fan yourself, as is Mash. Have England bowled well? Is it the pitch? Other than the chase run out, I'm wondering, is it just decent bowling? Are we just kind of jumping in the back of the West Indies a little bit?
Well, I think I'm going to let Dave reply, but I'm going to have a say on that too.
As Wokes in again, short ball to Dowrich, who jumps underneath that, almost kind of periscopes with his bat, which can at times get people into trouble, but no trouble this time as it goes through to Butler for no run.
I think we've got 3 outstanding performers in English conditions. 4, really. I mean, in fact 5 if you include Stokes, but certainly Wokes, Broad and Anderson in English conditions, you wouldn't expect them to do much less than they've done, really, would you? They all average in the low 20s over the last few years in England.
As Wokes in again, fuller ball this time.
Nice
Playing
shot.
away from his pad, Dowrich, but thick inside edge. They say it's the best shot in the book. He'd probably
Inside
like
edge.
more solidly than that, but it's brought in one of these.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bit harsh, Jono. Inside edge.
Edge this, you watch. Thick inside edge.
No.
On drive.
He was trying to play that through mid-off.
I think that's not out in the middle, I'll give it that. But bats are quite big these days.
Our guest has said that he can be available from 3, Bet.
Okay, well, we're at 225. Will he even get that far?
Chris Gale. Chris Wokes in, short ball to Dowrich, successfully avoided through to, not TT, through to Josh Butler for no run. What are your thoughts on the current situation then, David? As a West Indian cricket fan, do you think that we're being overly critical of the way that their batsmen have gone about things?
Well, I mean, I agree with Bear that Broad and Anderson, Wokes in these conditions would be a handful for any visiting team. I can't think of too many teams that would have equipped themselves well, but they wouldn't have been in this situation in the first place if they had been, to sort of I think they could have taken other actions during the course of the series. I think they've got progressively worse. They could have got progressively better as the series went on. And, sorry.
It was just defended up to mid-off. There's no run. Don't worry about it, John.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't want to sort of repeat what I've said sort of fairly monotonously, but, if you do keep making the same errors, then don't expect a different result. And we've seen this test match already because this is the second one on this ground. So to me, this test match has been disappointing because it's been a repeat of the errors that were made in the last test match. And some of those errors were nothing to do with what's happened on the field.
Michael Gough doesn't look like he's given it. Joe Root has instantly gone upstairs. I'm not sure whether Blackwood's now walked.
He looked like he was about to walk off, didn't he?
Back of length ball outside off stump from Archer. Blackwood kind of playing shots that you'd expect him to if the West Indies were 400 for 5. And we think, it may have got a tickle through to the keeper, Josh Butler, which puts them in real trouble if that's the case.
Oh, it does. Well, I've had a successful run on unders so far. I've just got 3 in a row, and I've got 5 out of 7 so far. That is surely. It couldn't be anything else if they heard a noise.
Absolutely not. No. Is it going to be a tickle?
No. It didn't touch anything by the looks of things.
Let's get on with the game, guys. Shall we? Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Strange choice of shot though from Blackwood. You'd think that he's going to play a lot tighter than that, unless he has just decided that he's going to, look to play his national game. Umpire Gough, who he's been outstanding. I think he's had the amount of I think he's had 1 overturned in the last two games. So he's done a stellar job as Archer returns to the top of his mark. As Knuckle was saying earlier, has certainly bowled better than his figures would suggest. As he's in, that's a fuller ball on leg stump to Blackwood, who just kind of nudges it into the leg side, collected by Butler, thrown back to Ben Stokes behind the stumps.
I guess, Jono, you can't also help reflect that as you see Jofra Archer pounding in, that this is West Indian talent that didn't make its way through the West Indies system, but has prospered through the English system, through coming over and playing county cricket at Sussex, and with all the love and affection TLC that you get there. He's
Chris
prospered.
Jordan, thank for that.
Who?
Chris
Yeah,
Jordan.
thank for
Yes,
that.
indeed, Chris Jordan. Yeah, no, indeed, and John Lewis, the bowling coach who was there at Sussex, who took Jofra Archer in as his lodger.
As Archer's in again, and Darrich defends off the back foot out to extra cover. There is no run.
Because the talent is clearly around in the Caribbean. There's plenty of talent there, but it's not. It doesn't get moulded in quite the same way as the the English system. And obviously, it's not just a question of resources; it's about structures and other things. But you can't help but reflect on that when here's someone who was in the West Indies under-19 team, outstanding for England.
As Archer's in again, past the umpire, and Darrich jumps high onto his toes and blocks that into the short backward square leg region. Again, no run. David,
If Jofra Archer had stayed in the Caribbean, would he have even got a game for Barbados?
Well, I mean,
Which would be tragic, really. I mean, that's, Is that what was happening then? Dave?
Well, I think it is a bit of a closed shop in terms of getting into some of the regional teams. Yes, I do think that.
as Archer in to complete the final ball of his over, short ball through to Josh Butler, seeing Darrich duck under that harmlessly, goes through to the keeper for no run to complete the over. David, I'm not sure if you were listening whilst Ofcoms earlier. I was making the point that in response to MASH that I think the wickets in the West Indies first class and regional Super 50 tournaments, regardless of whether they're better than they have been, aren't as good as wickets that you would expect to find in other areas of the Test Nation Test cricket. So I almost think that the openers aren't used to facing seam because they invariably face spin so early in an innings whilst playing on those West Indian wickets that are turning pretty much from ball one. As Wokes is in, first ball of a new over, that's a decent heavy length delivery. Blackwood onto the back foot, blocked back up the pitch to the bowler for no run.
I mean, as you indicated, that was the position as of about 3 years ago. The pitches have improved a lot, and we're no longer seeing opening regional teams opening with spin. West Indies are going to lose this series 2-1. They won the last series 2-1 in the Caribbean.
As Wokes in again, past the umpire, and that's at off stump, just back of length, and almost a forceful backward defensive from Jermaine Blackwood, picked up at short mid wicket for again no run. I agree that the wickets may have gotten better, and I think this is the point that I'm trying to clarify. But I still don't think those wickets haven't gotten better are anywhere near as good as wickets they would expect to play on in England, in Australia, in New Zealand. Knuckle Wokes is in again and pushed off the back foot by Jermaine Blackwood. This may go to the boundary. The fielder's chasing it, and it will be pulled in by Don Bess, who fantastic piece of fielding for that run out earlier of Roston Chase. Returns that to Chris Wokes, and they come through for 3 runs.
I just felt a drop of rain there, Jono. Did you feel that?
I think that and Knuckle made the point that green seamers are the wickets that we see prepared in England in the early season, as we do in New Zealand, etc. But at least that means that opening and top order batsmen are going to be facing seamers. Regardless of whether people are opening with spin in Super 50 competitions or first class, if that's not happening, that's good. But as Wokes is in, and that is kind of defended down to long leg by Shane Darrich for 1. If they're facing spin within the first arguably 25-30 overs, then those are wickets that are not designed to help seamers. They are designed to help spinners, and so therefore you're creating a problem, because when those West Indian top order batsmen do come away to England, New Zealand, Australia, they're facing high quality seamers on wickets that they're not used to playing on. That can't be good for West Indian cricket.
Well, I mean, away teams have a poor record all over the world now.
As Wokes is in, short ball, almost kind of gloved out through square leg. It's going to be picked up by long leg Jeffrey Archer underarms it back to the keeper, and they come through for 1.
I mean, yeah, an away series wins, notable ones. The only ones I can think of. India finally beat Australia in Australia, didn't they, a couple of winters ago?
Yeah.
England beating Sri Lanka 3-0 the other year.
Very rare. As rare as hen's
quite
teeth.
rare.
But how often do we go away? I mean, the biggest away results for England are when we win in subcontinental spinning conditions, because it's so alien from what we're used to playing on.
That's true.
India 2012, Sri Lanka just before that or just after that, as Wokes is in, that's defended into the backward point region, picked up by Dominic Best for no run to complete the over. West Indies 113 for 7, Blackwood 930, Dowrich 8 off 12.
Of course, we just
can I just read this, just not to break our flow? I'm going to come back to this question, but just on the tweets front, I want to read this one out because there's a man who deserves it, and that's Evil Scooters has said, here, David, thanks so much to the Hoff Bear for all the work to make this coverage possible. Thanks also to everyone who's contributed to the commentary this series. It's been great to have your company the past 3 weeks. Evil Scooters, you're a fine tweeter, and we thank you for that. And Spicy Golden Duck says the hula hoopist was playing saxophone. I don't understand that one because I must have missed the reference point. And a lovely sketch from Dr. Dan of the Roston Chase run out, which you can see on our Twitter feed.
Archer in to start his 9th over of the innings, and that is just back of length and forcefully pushed out through the offside by Jermaine Blackwood. Rushing away to the boundary, but no pulled in, and they will come back 4-2 as Josh Butler takes a return throw from Dom Sidney.
I mean, John, the other answer to your question, the big picture answer to your question is that if you've got a Test match championship now, you've got to have an even playing field. You can't have a situation where the top 3, England, India and Australia, have got all the resources, because England need people to play against.
As Archer's in and Blackwood plays a forceful front foot drive, thick inside of the edge of the bat out to extra cover for no run. David, this is the point I was making, and I think a lot of it does come back to the amount of money that is available for cricket boards to improve facilities. And
definitely, it's partly that, but I also think exchange programs are very important too. And a positive initiative would be to get more West Indian players, learning the game in the first class game in this country.
Archer in again as Blackwood back up on his toes, very deep in his crease this time, just drops it in front of him as the bowler picks up. Ben Stokes is having a laugh about something, but again there is no run. Bear, 115 for 7. What are you saying, my man? What's your prediction?
Over by T, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. These two might stick around. There'll be a wicket sooner or later. Jermaine Blackwood's playing freely here.
He is, yeah. As Archer in again, full of ball, and that's worked out to backward square. Not a defensive shot. That's quite an aggressive, almost looking to drive there by Blackwood. Or maybe looking to play some kind of counter-attack cricket. Maybe it's a little bit late for those punches to be thrown, David.
Well, yeah, I mean, counter punches, if attack's the best form of defence, then maybe. Just a quick tweet, Jono, from Puran Barish, who wants to second what Evil Scooter says. And
as Archer in and Blackwood again punches off the back foot out through the square point region. Don Bess out there to pick it up, and they come through for a 2 as Butler collects the return throw.
Brian says, thanks to the Guerrilla Cricket crew for keeping me company both at work and while having wake-up time with baby Hazel on the weekends. And I appreciate you all being patient with my probing questions and observations about the game. No, thank you, Brian, for all your tweets and all your observations.
Brian was our man who was tweeting in about, he's a big baseball fan, isn't he, Brian? He was the one going on about baseball? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Thanks very much for that,
Thanks, Brian, for being with us.
Archer in to complete his 9th over. That's a short ball and successfully ducked under by Jermaine Blackwood as it goes through to just Butler for no run. I think, please do keep, wherever you are in the world, whatever questions you've got about cricket, whether it be the current game or if certainly there are plenty of cricketers amongst us within the Guerrilla Cricket crew that are happy to talk about kind of slightly more technical things. Bear, I think, with world-class left-arm spinner in his day.
World-class, mate, yeah.
So yeah, if you do have any technical questions or stuff that maybe you don't understand that you would like us to try and answer for you, then by all means, feel free.
And any and I'm very happy to field any non-technical questions.
The ball back to Christopher Wokes. 3 for 39 from 9 currently. Just doing what he says on the tin, Wokesy, isn't he, in English conditions?
Yep.
As he starts his run up now, and aborts said run up. I think both of these umpires, both Goff and Kettleborough, look much better in the sun hats. I'm not sure about them in caps, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Wokes in again now.
Oh, that's out.
That is given out. LBW, another one that keeps low, jagging back, has hit Dowrich probably back in his crease in front of middle and off stump. I would say career into middle, halfway up. Dowrich is not even going to review as he departs for another single-figure score. He walks past Jermaine Blackwood and looks pretty resigned to his fate there.
That was pretty bloody plumb. And it just about got me squeezed into my bat. I think I had under 118.5 for the fall of that wicket.
Nice.
And I thought Jermaine Blackwood was going to spoil it.
The only thing that could have potentially saved Dowrich's there, as he was on the move in mid-air as it hit him, it may have suggested to umpire Kettleborough that maybe he was outside the line, but I think that's certainly the right call. I think it probably hit him in front of off, maybe middle and off, but certainly going on to hit the stumps, and a wise decision by Shane Dowrich not to review that.
Well, you were talking about technique there, John. I mean, I'm not a player of any distinction myself, but that looked to me, to my untutored eyes, that Dowrich just played across the straight one there. I mean, why didn't he play that straight rather than trying to hit it through mid-wicket?
We were talking, so on the last stint with Mash and Knuckle, I was pointing out that the captain, Jason Holder, was trying to actively get across his stumps and then almost back himself to hit that straight ball. But if you are going to take that, if you are going to decide to play like that, then you have to play a straight ball with the full face of the bat back down the wicket. That did jag back, but yeah, he, by playing across that one, then you're effectively playing with half a bat. If you miss that, then you're in a world load of trouble. Plus, he was on the move, no solid base. And so you're almost asking for trouble. Another slightly technical thing that I'd noticed watching Cornwall in the first innings, looking at him LBW to a ball that didn't necessarily get up so much, but he looks very strong through what I would call the V. He hits through the V very well with a straight bat, but he looks to struggle. I don't know whether this is because he's
trying to get the bat around his tummy, mate.
But
Jingle him up.
He struggles to play square of the wicket.
Let's give him a jingle.
Hey, batsman, leave those flippers alone. All in all, it's just another off break from Cornwall. All in all, it's just
As Wokes in again, first ball to Cornwall, who plays a push drive off the back foot wide of mid-off, in between mid-off and extra cover. I think that's Dom Sibley who does the chasing out to the long off boundary. Rather than throwing it in, he's deciding to run it back in. I'm sure that Cornwall will have taken two there. Bear, our esteemed guest, I believe, should be coming towards the waiting room any moment.
Okie dokie.
Just a few tweets while we're waiting. Evil Scooters. Oh God, I've left it too late. Wokes is about to run in.
Wokes is about to run in now. 4 for 41 from 9.2. As he's into Cornwall, and Cornwall leaves a good length delivery, 6 inches outside off stump, through to Josh Butler for no run.
Evil Scooter says that he's going to be on study sleep schedule from Monday, but should a TV accompaniment be sourceable here for the first 2 ODIs, I'm hoping to be with you for every ball. Yes, Guerrilla Cricket will be covering the Island Series every ball. And Dave Sira says, Dave Sira, sorry. Sri Lanka winning in South Africa 2-0. That was another example for the away win. Also, thanks for the coverage, guys, as always.
Wokes in there, bowls a very full ball to Cornwall, who looks to almost whip it over backward square leg, but misses it. But rather than appeal, I think they all understand that that's going to miss leg stump, and so there is no review.
Messi Jez says the GPL is now in play. You're sitting pretty there, Messi Jez, by the looks of it. I'll ask Bear to comment on that in a moment.
Well, we have 11 entries. I was just looking at that. What did they come out on this morning? 10, wasn't it?
10 for 2, yeah.
Yeah, so 109. Yeah, the GPL is certainly in play. I'll update you on that.
And that is full, and that's hitting Midland leg stump, given out. That is a fifer for Christopher Wokes, who's Cornwall departs back without even consulting his batting partner. 2 runs from 4 deliveries. Again, goes back to, if it's the bowling full and straight and you're going to go across the stumps, you need to be playing back up the pitch with the full face of the bat. Not that I am a test batsman, but if I know that, then they should certainly know that.
I mean, why would you not use the review there?
Because you're out.
And then into Midland leg stump, David.
Game's about to be over.
Well, it is true. You might as well use it just for the hell of it. You know what? He was out so quickly that it didn't offer me any odds on full of that wicket. It was so annoying.
Yeah. News from baseball. Brian Barish says, I imagine you've heard about the situation with most of the Miami Marlins baseball team going ahead with their series in Philadelphia over the weekend, despite the knowledge that 4 of their teammates had tested positive with COVID. That puts the whole of the MLB season in jeopardy, according to Brian. So thank you very much for that observation. And Leah, also on baseball, says if you're interested in baseball video essays reminiscent of Gerard Kimber, look up Foolish Baseball on YouTube. Foolish Baseball. Anna Forsyth, good morning to you. I'm glad I set my alarm a little early. This may be done and dusted before I leave for work. God love Christopher Roger Wokes. Well, indeed, Christopher Roger Wokes has bagged a fifer. England got their selection totally right for this, didn't they? It was a good call to leave out a batsman. It was a good, aggressive call because it enabled them to play Wokes as well as Archer, Broad and Anderson. What a bowling attack England have had in this game. I mean, all credit to them. And Wokes is so effective in English conditions. It's amazing that he's not one of the first names on the score sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very useful in English conditions as big Shannon Gabriel comes out to bat with a batting average in tests of 4.64. Do we have a jingle for him, please, Mr. Bear?
We do have a little jingle for him. It goes a bit like this.
Shannon Gabriel.
As Wokes into Gabriel first ball, and that's LBW. They're appealing. I think it's definitely straight enough. I think only not given on height. That was Wokes.
I thought he hit it.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think it'd have been umpire's call at best, wouldn't it, as well? So
clutching at a few straws there, David. I think as Wokes takes his 4th fifer, all in England. His first not at Lords.
Oh.
Well, he'll be on the honours board. Oh, it's probably on the honours board at Old Trafford already, isn't he? I don't know, but wouldn't surprise me. Oh no, he can't be because you just said. I'm on my second beer. We had these beers sent in. There's a whole host of IPAs and lagers in the fridge that got sent by Amazon the other day, and I'm on Sorcery Session IPA. It's quite nice actually. So you boys are missing out by not being in the studio.
Yeah, yeah. Apart from having to get all the way to Sydenham from South West London.
It's a small journey. It's a small price to pay, Jono. It's a small price to pay.
I can buy my own beers there.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice to see that the bottle of Amarula I brought back as a gift from South Africa has never been opened.
No, it hasn't either.
First ball of the over, and Blackwood punches that back down to almost where a mid-on would be on the edge of the 30-yard circle in a one-day international. And they decide to take no run. Obviously, Blackwood now 13 from 37, looking to farm the strike to delay the inevitable, which is all that we can think it would be, with probably 65 overs still left in the day's cricket. This would make Cardiff look like a nothing as Blackwood goes back and defends out to extra cover from Archer's second ball of the over. Yeah, I mean, if Gabriel and Blackwood to see this off, old Monty and Jimmy's efforts would pale into complete insignificance, would they not?
Well, of course they would, but I mean,
Muttley, hello Muttley. You say car number 2 is complete. Doesn't look like we will have a third session or third car. Woof. Muttley, it looks very impressive what you've done there. I think in the medium of Lego.
As short ball from Archer, well evaded by Blackwood, who just drops onto his back knee as it goes through to Butler for no run. The England coaching staff there, Chris Silverwood and Graham Thorpe, full of laughs and the joys of spring. Obviously, sensing that the game is near to a conclusion.
MJ Noster says, I stand by my theory that his name is actually Christopher Stephen Rogers Wokes. Oh, Stephen Rogers Wokes, got it. CSRW.
No, still haven't got it.
No, I haven't got it either. I thought I had it, but now I haven't. I thought Stephen Rogers. MJ Noster, can you explain? Not for the first time. I've failed. The failing is with me, not with you. But I'm failing to grasp the subtlety
is it
of
something to do with C.S.
witticism.
Lewis? I don't know. But that's a bit tenuous, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting.
At the top of his mark, we'll be looking to finish the innings with a wicket as he's in now to Blackwood. That's a quick ball, just back of length. That is pushed out to a deep backward point. I shouldn't think for a second that they're going to take the one, and they indeed do not. Archer's bowled well in this game, considering the lack of wickets next to his name, lads.
I know, it's been a bit unfortunate, isn't it? I mean, they all went up for that one the other couple of overs just before I came on air, and everyone's convinced it was out, wasn't it? They all went up, reviewed it straight away, and he hadn't touched it. I don't know where that noise came from, but he has bowled reasonably well, and he hasn't got that wicket that he probably deserved.
Yeah, as he turns now top of his mark for 2 balls left in this over. West Indies 119 for 9. England obviously only needing 1 wicket to win the match and then regain the Wisden Trophy. As Archer's in now to Blackwood. One that probably got a little bit bigger on him than he would have thought. Hit him almost on the arm guard. It's gone out to backward square leg, and they will run through for a 1, leaving Gabriel 1 ball to face in this over.
If you had to pick, sorry, Bear, I was going to say, if you had to pick 3 England bowlers for the next test, you'd have a job leaving Wokes out, wouldn't you?
Well, you'd have a look.
Wokes before Archer. He's jumped up in the pecking order, surely.
Well, this is the point, isn't it? I mean, our best bowling attack is Anderson, Broad, probably Wokes in English conditions with Archer's back. I mean, this is the point. You've got 4-pronged attack here, so Archer not taking any wickets. It's a shame, but everyone else has done a job, Not everyone can take wickets.
Now to Shannon Gabriel, quick full ball, and Archer can't believe that Gabriel somehow got an inside edge on that. I think as soon as he let go of it, he thought that was going to be the match over. But he does indeed get an inside edge, but they do not take a run, as Blackwood will face up to the Chris Wokes for the next over, one would presume.
No, I mean, any bowling attack, you work as partnerships, don't you? I mean, obviously Jimmy and Brody have been going for years and years and years, and Archer's the new boy in this situation. But it doesn't matter who takes wickets; it's hunting as a pack. I mean, there are often times where Jimmy and Brody will not be successful in opening spells, but they create enough pressure and everything going on that the first change bowlers then come in and take the glory. But it's a team game, so it doesn't really matter. And it's about getting over the line at the end of the day.
100%. As Wokes 5 for 41 off 10. Great return so far into Jermaine Blackwood. Angled in at leg stump, and that is just worked out to deep backward square. Ollie Pope will coming off the boundary and field, but obviously they take no run with Blackwood looking to farm the strike.
What I am surprised is they haven't got a leg gully or leg slip in for Blackwood. I mean, Archer got him out, or they peppered him, and this was on the way to got him out in the first test, and he's a couple of times he's just chipped it up into that area just behind square on the back foot, looking uncomfortable, but decided today we're not going to have a leg slip in or leg gully.
As Wokes in again, it looks like a slower delivery. That's full and just blocked out to mid-on by Jermaine Blackwood. Pretty well disguised that from Chris Wokes. Bear, I think it's probably now time that we can announce our esteemed guest for the...
Yes, well, we were going to have him at tea, but we got Toby Tarrant. He's a DJ on Radio X, and I listen to him on the radio as I'm coming around. I know he's a massive cricket fan, and Jono knows him, plays with him.
Well, there's Wokes in again, and that is just edged over. Looks to play the kind of ramp, does Blackwood, but just gets it over Josh Butler, and it goes down to the bandit for one of these.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
And he was going to join us at tea, but we're not going to get to tea. So we've hassled him a little bit, or Jono has.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's these broadcasters such a busy
life.
schedule, Toby, but he's been kind enough to agree to join us early. As Wokeson now length ball and battered away off the back foot by Jermaine Blackwood through extra cover, and that brings him another one of these.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I tell you, Blackwood's been the best of the West Indies batsmen this series, and he was very prolific in first-class cricket, got a double century and stuff. So it does show you that he's worth his weight getting back into this team. Toby Tarrant, I enjoyed his stuff he did on TV recently. He had a cricket show on the box. He was brilliant at that. So it's great that we've got.
Well, he's now joined us in picture. Hello, Toby.
Hello, chaps. How are we doing?
We're doing all right. Yourself?
So I've just met you were the guy that watched that Yahoo Sport cricket show. You were the guy, were you?
Well, I enjoyed it very much. You had some good guests.
We did. We had the esteemed Daniel Norcross. We had the lovely Isabel Westbury. We had Jeff Lemon and Adam Collins. It was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, those two reprobates got on your show. God damn it! Fuck me.
I mean, basically, they spent all their budget on Norcross, and then Australians weren't cheap, so we spent the rest of the budget on those two, basically.
Toby, I'll come to you in a minute. Obviously, we'll have an extended chat once the final wicket goes down, just to get your view on the series so far. As Wokes in round the wicket to Jermaine Blackwood, punched back through a straight mid-off. The kind of delivery that a fast bowler doesn't want to see. Toby, obviously, I know that you are a fast bowler yourself. Obviously, always been too scared to turn up when due to play against the Old Wimbledonians, but you can read into that what you will.
Apparently I picked a good game to miss. The one time my club played against Jono had the game of his life, and he would have been unbearable, so I'm glad I missed it.
That's good to know. I hear you play for Stoke Davenham.
Yes, Bob Willis's old stomping ground.
Well, because I play. Well, I used to play. I haven't played for 3 years now. But one of the last games I played was Stoke Davenham. I played for Alain Old Boys. We used to be Honour Open Alain Old Boys, and I play second 11 cricket or first 11. And they're one of the clubs I remember, because you got the wicket keeper with a hockey mask, and the captain who's got a short bat. And he kept hitting me on the roof actually a few years ago, but that's another story.
Oh, trust me, plenty of my bowls have ended up on the roof as well, sadly.
Yes.
Toby, did you inherit your love of cricket from your family, from your father?
Yeah, I did completely. Yeah. I've always been a cricket geek, as you guys all well know. Once the sport sucks you in, you can't leave it. It's an obsession rather than a hobby, and so a complete badger, a complete geek, and proud of it. I know people that don't watch cricket or understand cricket. I think it's sometimes seen as this fuddy-duddy, boring old sport, and I'm fine with them thinking that. I quite like the fact that cricket is niche. I quite like the fact that it's ours, and we know that it's a bit geeky, and we're absolutely fine with it. I think that's part of the beauty of following it, to be honest.
Absolutely. Stuart Broad, 500 wicket man now into Blackwood, who I think has gloved it down the leg side.
He has indeed.
Not gives him 501 wickets for Stuart Broad. Sees the third test of this Wisden Trophy series against the West Indies come to a close. England winning by 269 runs and regaining the Wisden Trophy 2-1. Toby, you're obviously you're a decent omen for the England side, I think.
Yeah, clearly. Ever since I've tuned into you guys, we've wrapped up these last 3 wickets in no time at all. But so fitting, I think, to see Stuart Broad take that final wicket, considering that he was dropped ridiculously for the first game. Very fitting with the test and 2 tests he's had since then, that he wrapped the whole series up. He's just been phenomenal.
Absolutely. A great take there by a full-length diving Josh Butler down the leg side. Obviously, Joe Root, having missed a test for the birth of his second child, is obviously delighted. For the first time since 1888 that England have won a 3-match series at home, coming from 1-0 down.
Wow.
1888. 1888. I think you were about 5, David.
Yeah. Can I just interrupt with just a couple of tweets here? Quite interesting ones. Dave Sirrar says, what if we just kept Jofra and Wood for white ball and foreign tours. Interesting thought. And Ravi Nair says, who was it who said a cowardly declaration? I have nothing but contempt for Joe Root's decision-making skills.
Well, Jono, I got to say, absolute bullshit.
Nice one, Ravi. You got that one in. No.
And it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to get Toby's view on it. Yeah. My point is always that a decent bowling performance in the fourth innings doesn't mask a negative declaration. My personal view is that England have batted far too long in the third innings in both the second and third tests. What do you think?
I mean, I did, maybe a bit unfair, especially as they did send out Stokes and Butler at one point and recreate our super over partnership, which was a move that 10 years ago the England cricket team would never have dreamed of. They would have sent out Sibley and Burns and they would have batted till close. So there was a bit of positivity there, but I do agree with you. I think sometimes, especially as we were behind the 8 ball as soon as we went 1-0 down in the series, sometimes as a captain you can turn around to your bowlers and go, right, if they chase 350, we don't deserve to win this test match. So I do completely agree. I find declarations all round pretty negative in world cricket. It's not just an England problem, it's a universal problem. But I do think there comes a point where you have to say, look, bowlers, on this pitch, if they chase 350 with Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, Jofra Archer, Chris Woakes, then we don't deserve to win the series. So yeah, I would have had no problems with an earlier declaration. But I look at the West Indies batting lineup today. They've been brilliant this series. They deserve so much respect for the fact they've even come over here to play. But I don't think they believed they could bat all day today. I never got the impression with some of the shots that we saw earlier on, I mean, Shea Hope in particular, I don't know if they fancied it, if they really turned up this morning thinking that they could survive with all 8 wickets lasting today. I don't think personally they really believed that they could do it.
Do you think they were a bit...
Yeah, I agree. It's disappointing, but I absolutely agree with that, Toby, yeah.
I mean, do you think they were a bit broken, though, Tobes? I mean, for the second match in a row, they won the toss and decided to bowl. And it was clearly a poor decision in the last test. And in this test, do you think the heads kind of went down, even at the end of the first day when England got to the end of, best part of 200 odd, and hardly any wickets down, and, what were we, 250 for 4 at the end of day one? Or at that point, they must have thought, oh shit, we've made the wrong decision again. And from there on in, it was always going to be a tough ask. But they knew that was from the last test. They saw exactly the same thing happen, and then they just went and repeated the mistake.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't believe a poor Shannon Gabriel, who has been a lamb to slaughter with these, rapid succession test matches. He's not the most nimble and agile bloke in the world anyway. He's come steaming in that first test, bowled beautifully. And then the 2 tests since then, his captain's given him no rest and also said, yep, we're bowling straight up. Hopefully. I mean, no wonder he keeps going off with little niggles and injuries and stuff. Yeah. Look, like I said, I don't want to criticise this West Indies side so much because they've got so much respect from me for even making the trip over here and giving us all something to watch the last few weeks. It's been so nice to watch Test cricket again. So I don't want to criticise them too much, but for all the talk after the first test of this being a sort of new era, in the 2 tests since then, we have seen the same old problems of some of the pretty poor West Indies sides that have travelled here over the last decade or so. And like I said, I don't believe that they turned up this morning thinking they could bat all day. They were probably hoping for a bit more rain. But like I said, I don't want to criticise them too much, but certainly West Indies cricket still sadly has got a long, long way to go. And if you look at I don't know where the fast bowlers have gone in the Caribbeans because, Gabriel and Kemar Roach aren't getting any younger. But they have
well, Toby, there's 6 of... That's the annoying thing, if I can just respond to one or two things you said there.
Yeah.
There's 6 of them on this tour. West Indies are here with a squad of 25 players. Because obviously they had to bring enough players up for the warm-up matches. And there's no excuse for putting any player on the park if he's not fully fit or if he's tired or stiff from the previous game. They've got some really good pace bowlers, but we'll never know how good they are unless they're given a game. And sadly, people like Shamar Holder, Ray Reefer, Marcus Mindley, these players are in the reserves and haven't had a chance. Shane Thomas, who you remember from the World Cup, he's here. He's in the same hotel and the same pitch, and they didn't get a game. So I didn't understand why West Indies kept the same team selection. And also, don't forget, before we write them off completely, that West Indies won the series at home last year against England 2-1.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It's a shame we haven't seen them. They see these guys in the nets every day. They obviously think that Gabriel and Roach are their best fast bowlers. But You can't tell me that a 60% Shannon Gabriel, there was nobody in that squad like O'Shea
Exactly.
Thompson at the World Cup that could have done a job better than that. And also the decision to bowl first, knowing that your fast bowler's got to
Exactly. You know, and I think Bear mentioned earlier the surprise factor of bring in a new player. Do you know, whenever England put a new bowler on the park, he gets wickets, doesn't he? Usually a debutant takes wickets because people haven't seen him before, haven't worked him out. And I think if West Indies had taken a bit more risks and been a bit more enterprising, and put someone on the park who England hadn't seen before, who knows what would have, I'm not saying the result would have been different because the batting has been the issue, but it would have actually mixed it up a bit,
So I completely agree.
Zahir Clark, who's obviously one of our esteemed West Indian friends who's been joining us throughout this, he said that's England's largest ever victory against the West Indies by runs, 269 runs.
Good Lord, it's a good stat.
Which is a huge stat. Just before we carry on, gents, I'm just going to do a quick roundup of the Test match. So, England 369 all out from 111.5 overs in the first innings, followed by 197 all out from 65 for the West Indies. England's second innings 226 for 2 declared from 58 overs. West Indies second innings themselves 129 all out from 37.1. Obviously, the broad getting to 500 wickets is a massive thing. I think it's crazy how these things work, isn't it? How Jimmy Anderson's 500 wicket in Test cricket was Craig Brathwaite, and it's also now Stuart Broad's 500. That's almost magical to me. I mean, those two have got such a partnership, as such a pair, and have been for such a long period for English cricket. That I think that's a massive. It's almost written in the stars.
Well, it is, and as long as it goes on, I'm quite happy. I thought it was a big mistake to leave Broad out the first Test. I thought that was absolute madness, to be fair. I mean, look, you want to give these guys something to look forward to in the future, and they're talking about the bloody Ashes at the end of next year. I mean, this is a Test match that needs to be won now. You don't go into your first Test and say, oh, we're going to leave out, the guy who's 6th on the wicket-taking list in the world ever. We're going to leave him out of the first Test with a partnership where he's got over 800 Test wickets with Jimmy Anderson, who's 2 places above him in that bloody list, and they've been bowling as a partnership for years and years and years and taking shed loads of wickets. And then you go, well, we're going to leave one of them out because we want to try. I mean, and then they tried Archer and Wood, who bowled okay. They're very quick, but the wicket at Southampton wasn't actually very quick, and it didn't make that much difference. And we ended up losing that first Test, and he came back and he's proved it. I mean, what's his average in the series? 10 or something.
10, yeah.
And so, I mean, it was a bit mad. It was a bit mad. I think you play your strongest side. Maybe. I mean, I understand the rotation thing. I think we've got 3 Tests now. They've got 7 days off, and then they've got another 3 Tests. And there'll be more rotation. I mean, the next Test is again at Old Trafford, and then they go back for 2 at the Ageas. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, there's still rotation to be made. But, I mean, they haven't bowled a lot of overs in this innings. They didn't bowl a massive amount in the first innings either. So, they should be reasonably fresh. And I just think you play to win. Fair enough with a little bit of rotation. But generally, you put your best team out on the park.
Toby, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm just watching this montage now that they're showing of Stuart Broad bowling. It's just been such an honour to watch him bowl these last 13 years. And look, we mentioned earlier, I've played cricket at a very, very different standard, but I've bowled fast bowling, if you like, in huge inverted commas. And to get up the morning after, my missus Pippa will vouch for the fact that I can barely put my socks on in the morning. For 13 years, to steam in and do that with all the aches and all the pains that him and Jimmy must have. To get 500 Test wickets is just a thing of beauty, especially in this day and age with back-to-back Test matches and stuff. And I completely agree. I don't think cricket as much as other sports. I think football, my other great love, there's an argument about getting young players in the team and blooding them and getting them used to Premier League football, whatever. But I think with cricket, you just live and die by your most recent Test match. Cricket fans just want to win Test series.
Absolutely.
And so it doesn't matter if your bowler's 38 or 21. Which one's going to win you that Test match? Because that's all we as England fans care about. And, building for the next Ashes series, I kind of see it. But then we brought Kevin Peterson in for his debut in 2005, and that didn't work out too badly. I think you pick your best 11 players, and Stuart Broad, if you're asking me who our best 11 players are, it's that bloke with 501 wickets now.
And the other point is, I mean, who knows? I mean, Wood's had so many bloody injuries. Who knows he's going to be fit in a year and a half's time? I mean, going from this far out, it's absolutely ridiculous. But your football love, you're a Liverpool fan as well, aren't you?
Hold on. I thought we'd agreed that
Good
being
man.
a Liverpool fan and me being a United fan, that this was a football
Well,
break.
United are scum, you know that. My brother's a United supporter, and I've had to deal with loads of his shit for my entire life. So you can all sod off. This year's ours.
Whilst we're doing statistics, I do like the stat that Man United avoided relegation by 32 points, and they were 33 points off winning the league. I just thought I'd leave that one.
Well, that's a good stat. I like that one.
I'd just pop in with some tweets just to break up the football chants. That Adelaide Barmis says another 5-day test involving ECB. Surely this is some kind of record. Messi Jez missed the GPL by 1 run again. Thanks all for a great series, especially Bear and Knackle for all the tech. Armchair Cricket Podcast says the denouement has come quite rapidly. Well played England, and deservedly take the Wisdom Trophy. Thanks to Guerrilla Cricket once again for their very enjoyable coverage. Anna Forsyth says brilliant coverage, guys. Thank you. Jason Hiscox says the chairman's pitches, isn't it? Muttley, thanks for the coverage, folks. Been a great series and great company. And she says, shall I save car number 3 for when you're all next on air? Love and sausages, woof. And that is a picture of a Lego Speed Champions, which Muttley's going to build for us. Yeah, save it for the Ireland ODI series, Muttley. And Rob Browning says, you should have brought Toby in earlier. Well, Toby, where were you earlier?
I was doing my other job. I managed to squeeze you into my busy 3-hour-a-day working schedule, but I just about managed to find time to squeeze you in.
Well, I tried to get in touch with you last summer actually, because I've been listening to Radio X for donkeys, and I used to drive here at the beginning of the Ashes, and you'd be doing your morning show, and you'd be getting really excited and tell everyone you're going to tell the scores, and I was like, you should get him on. I couldn't DM you. And your manager was in between me and you, so that was it, done. But fortunately, I know Jono, so we're here now.
You've got friends in slightly higher places than yourself.
Well, absolutely.
Jono. Well, that's it. So obviously, I'm very honest on air. I do cricket score updates on my show because I'm on at 10 till 1, so I often get texts from people going, "Hi Toby, I love the show, but hope you understand, as soon as the cricket starts at 11, I'm going to go listen to that, or I'm going to go and watch that." So I went, well, screw this. I'm losing listeners here to the thing that I love as well. So selflessly, what I do is I put the cricket on the computer in the studio.
Absolutely.
And for the listener, obviously, I keep one eye on the cricket and whilst doing the show.
So Toby sent me a WhatsApp last week, and I couldn't believe it. He's there doing a prime time show to millions of people, and he sat there watching the cricket, and he sends me a photo of his studio with him watching the cricket on the TV, which I thought was brilliant.
It's all for the listener.
Toby, you're not the only cricket-loving DJ. There's Greg James, obviously on Radio 1.
Yes.
He's now got his Tailenders podcast. Are we going to be seeing a podcast from Toby Tarrant?
A cricket podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's doing pretty well, but if I can rope in a few people, and I like the idea around a drinking cricket podcast. So it involves everyone getting completely levered and discussing cricket.
We already do that
very
live,
well
mate.
qualified for that. We've got years of practice at that.
Years of practice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it, because we do an annual charity pubcast, Radio X, every year, and we make an absolute fortune for charity. And I don't want to, take any money away from our wonderful charity, but I did see how much money we were raising and go, hang on a second, that's rather successful, that format. So it's definitely something. I don't know if anyone like Cockspur Rum's listening and they want to sponsor it, but or
That's
Guinness.
a good idea. So Toby and I had a meeting last Thursday outside a lovely little pub in the sunshine, where he was nursing his post-watching Liverpool a couple of beers and then having to drag himself into work on Thursday. And this was something that we actually discussed, was maybe an idea of a competitive cricket podcast to the aforementioned Tailenders podcast.
Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about Pippa, who I obviously congratulations on your recent engagement, by the way, Toby.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you very much. She's I mean,
she's there.
Basically, whilst I'm sat here talking to you about cricket, I mean, I promise it's not normally this sexist and misogynistic in this household, but I'm sat here talking about cricket, and Pippa's cleaning the kitchen in the background at the moment. But
I'll get her to come and say hello.
Yeah, exactly. There she is. She's walking around there in the distance.
Hello.
Yeah, she said this is very geeky. So Pippa has never watched before we started seeing each other. She'd been to the odd cricket game. She actually once sat with Graham Swan and Jimmy Anderson for a whole day and had no idea who they were and couldn't understand why people were getting very excited and coming up to them asking for photos and stuff. When she told me this, I said, that's Jimmy Anderson. That's the greatest fast bowler this country's ever produced. But I'm very proud to say that now I've got her to a level where she can name the entire England team when they're on the screen. Yesterday I started on the fielding positions. I've only got as far as wicketkeeper, slips and gully, as much as she could take him for one day. And the dream is that basically I've taken to one day of Test cricket 2 years ago, and she's learnt that basically you sit there for about 12 hours and get completely levered. So she's coming round.
That's exactly what is there not to love about a game? And it's in the sun. It's a summer sport, you know.
So
did she come and watch you at Stoke?
Yeah, she's been down to watch me a couple of times, but I don't think I've bowled very well the 2 times she's been there. I obviously put too much pressure on myself to impress her. So yeah, I'll have to get used to bowling in front of her.
When I met my wife, who told me she loved cricket, my wife's Kenyan, and she said, "Oh yeah, I used to go drinking with Steve Ticcolo back in the day." I was like, "Oh right. yeah." And since then, she doesn't really like cricket. It's all the love, you know.
Probably a slightly different level of cricket she's watching though.
Well, yeah, true, but still.
Hey, Toby, one of the guys is saying disappointing not to see you in one of your flowery shirts from the Yahoo podcast.
Yeah, that was for the Yahoo show. That was actually my insistence. So, in fact, when I met Jono for this meeting, let's call it, in the pub a few days ago, I was pleased to see that I'd come in one of my tamer Hawaiian shirts, but Jono was in a very flowery number.
Absolutely.
My wardrobe is pretty much exclusively loud Hawaiian shirts, so I thought for the Yahoo Sports Show had a bit of colour. I insisted that we all wear Hawaiian shirts, and as you can imagine, Daniel Norcross was licking his lips.
Absolutely, yeah. He's never going to object to that.
Well, yeah.
So we
did Dan Norcross used to wear such?
He's always worn flowery shirts. He's always been allowed. He's always
days.
Yes. He's always been a loud shirts man, as far as I've known. Dan Norcross used to be my captain at my cricket club.
Did he?
Yes.
Did he?
He was the man who got me playing cricket again, actually, when I was 27. I sort of lost my way in my 20s, shall we say. I'm probably a little bit older than you. I was at Manchester in the 90s and had a wild time in my 20s, and then came back to cricket at 27. And he was captain at Al Ain and Honor Oak, and I'm a left-arm spinner. And he said
Is that how Test Match Sofa was born?
That's how Test Match Sofa was born, yeah. So I started that with Dan. And then he obviously went off to the BBC, and I used to work in media, so I was trying to get out of it, and he was trying to get in. So we've gone on different ways, and now we do this.
Did you just refer to yourself as slightly older than Toby?
I think so. You look like a reasonably young man, Toby, in a flush of youth.
Yeah, it wasn't that bit. I was taking objection with.
Well, I'm going to be 50 in bloody 6 months' time. You know, life is floating past.
So Toby, I'm really keen to get your your background in cricket. How did you get into it? Obviously, your father is heavily involved, and obviously as you are with the Lord's Taverners. But what are your what got you into cricket? At what age is your first cricketing memory? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember. So I loved football first. Football was the first sport I fell in love with when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I think a lot of people, football is sort of a gateway sport because it's so simple. You just need a ball and that's about it, or a tennis ball, whatever you can find. That's why football's so popular. And then I really wanted to be good at football, but I'm crap. So then I discovered cricket when I was about 9 years old. My dad loved cricket. I'd watched a bit of it on the TV. That sort of really rubbish England team of the late 90s, early noughties.
Yes.
And started playing cricket and just found that I could put a cricket ball in just about the right area and bowled all right. And then I realised, I don't have to get in the third 11 for sports anymore. There's actually something that I'm half decent at. And then, like I said earlier, it sucks you in, doesn't it? I'm a complete cricket lover, and I go to Liverpool games home and away all over Europe. But if you ask me to sacrifice one or the other, I'd find it very difficult to choose between a day at watching England in the Test or going to Liverpool. They're completely different. You don't maybe have the loud in-your-face passion maybe of live football, but there's something socially about sitting at a day of cricket with your dad or with your mate and having a few drinks and watching cricket in the background that I don't think you can top. So I've absolutely fallen in love with it. And then through Lord's Taverners, just surreal experiences of bowling at Brian Lara, Herschel Gibbs. I played a game at Windsor Castle once against the United Arab Emirates, and the scorecard, the bowling attack read Donald, Caddick, Malcolm, T. Tarrant.
Genius. Have you kept that?
It was absolutely insane. And I remember the captain that day was Michael Atherton, and he came up to me, and you don't hear this sentence every day. He goes, Toby, warm up. I'm going to give Alan one more. And I went, well, I'm ready to go now, but if you want to give Alan Donald one more, that's completely up to you. Yeah, fine. I suppose he's bowling all right. And he'd only retired 2 or 3 years earlier. I was quite young at the time, and he was bowling off 4 paces. And there's something about, I'm not rapid quick. I probably bowl 70 odd miles an hour, and I like to think I'm relatively sharp when I'm playing my club cricket. But I watched Alan Donald off 4 paces. He must have been bowling 82, 83 miles an hour. But there's a fizz on the seam when you play with bowlers of that quality that it's like when you play with a brilliant golfer. Their club makes a different sound to everybody else's. And I just remember standing at mid-wicket, watching Alan Donald trundle in off 4 paces, and the fizz of this seam flying past the outside edge of these UAE batsmen, who were serious batsmen, by the way, couldn't get near him. I remember stood there just going, I was actually gutted I had to come on and bowl because everyone was really enjoying watching Alan Donald.
Yeah.
Then you've got me coming in off 21 yard pace run up and bowling 10 miles an hour slower down leg side. But yeah, so it's been a surreal opportunities through Lord's Taverners, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it. I still play every Saturday, and probably more. I've always loved it, but I probably appreciate it now more than ever before. Living in London, I grew up in the countryside. Living in London, doing a media job all week, and a bit of pressure of live national radio and stuff. To go on a Saturday and play with your 10 of your best mates and play a game of cricket and stand in a field, I probably have more appreciation for it now than ever before. I love it.
You mentioned the Lord's Taverners, so I don't know if just talk a little bit about the work that you do for them, and what, for those people who maybe don't know necessarily so much about them, what it is that they look to give to the community. Yeah, so they are just an absolutely wonderful charity, and Dad's been involved since the 70s, and he's been chairman and president for years and stuff like that. Their whole thing is they want to give young people sporting chance. So that's either people that are disabled, young people that are disabled, or young people from really impoverished areas that just wouldn't have access to cricket. There is a real problem sometimes with cricket that it's only played necessarily in some of the posh schools, some of the old school red brick sort of schools, whereas Lord's Taverners goes into city centres and goes to communities where they'd never normally get to play it, and organises street cricket games for them. And the other huge thing they do, you've probably seen the Lord's Taverners buses going around the country. Their aim is to put one on the street every single week, if they can, with the money they raise. They're not cheap, but they're specialist buses for kids with disabilities, and it's things that can either take them to and from school, or it can take them to and from these cricket matches we organise. And for kids, we also organise table cricket, which is the closest thing they'll ever be able to play to the cricket that we watch on TV all the time. And it's just a wonderful charity. But I sometimes feel like I'm conning people when I play for Lord's Taverners, because like I say, you go to a game, I play a game of cricket, which I love doing. I play with Alan Donald, Herschel Gibbs, Brian Lara. I'm like a kid at Disneyland. I'm having the best day of my life. And at the end of the day, we've raised 100 grand that day, and everyone's shaking your hand and going, thank you so much, we've raised a fortune. I'm going, I've literally just lived my dream for the last 12 hours. So the fact that we've also raised this money for this wonderful cause is a huge, it's I'm so fortunate to be involved with it. It is surreal that you can raise that much money playing a game of cricket, but yeah, very, very proud to be involved with them, and I'll be with them as long as they'll have me, basically. And obviously the Ruth Strauss Foundation, obviously this third test has been, the last time I saw it, I think it was almost £650,000 have been raised, obviously through a dreadful experience for Andrew and the boys. But it just goes to show that I think the cricket loving public are so willing to kind of get around each other, and there's that old hashtag, isn't there, that you'll have seen many times over the years, like hashtag cricket family and that kind of stuff. I think it's wonderful to see people willing to support each other as often as they do.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think we saw it with Glenn McGrath as well. They have a similar day down in Australia, and you've seen the amazing stuff they've been doing at the start of every day's play for Black Lives Matter. I said at the start when I joined in that cricket is niche. It's people either completely understand it or don't really understand it at all. And I think from that sort of niche aspect comes a closeness that there's not necessarily. We joke about hating the Aussies and wanting to beat the Aussies, and of course we do. And sometimes maybe I do hate them a bit more than other times. But
everyone hates the Aussies, Tony. Toby, sorry. Everybody hates the Aussies.
But you see those moments, with Freddie Flintoff shaking Brett Lee's hands and stuff. It is still a sport played by gentlemen, and I don't mean that in the respect that it's played by rich people. I mean that it's played with a completely understanding, and I think we are all part of this beautiful cricket family. So things like Andrew Strauss and the tragic stuff with Ruth is that the whole cricketing community, suddenly the West Indies players aren't thinking about West Indies versus England. It's just, this is a wonderful cause, we can help raise money. And the same with the Black Lives Matter stuff. The English players go, all rivalry aside, yes, we're playing a very hard-fought test match here, but there's something much more important at stake here. And I think you get that with cricket, perhaps more than any other sport. It is a real close-knit community. And I think it comes from that nicheness. It comes from us all recognising this is our sport, we love it very much, and we're proud of it, and let's see what good we can do with it.
Yeah, I think there's a whole thing, isn't there, about cricket? I mean, even this series, whatever, no matter who you beat or whatever, you appreciate the good performances. You don't criticise too much. I mean, everyone who's played the game understands the difficulty of it, and the fact that, batsmen have it cruel. You only get to make one mistake, which is why I like being a bowler. You get to bowl. I'm a left-arm spinner. You get to bowl all afternoon. Things like that. So I do think within the cricket community, you're right that you get to appreciate everybody and the good things and the bad things from both sides, and you just sit there and you go, wow, this is a great game.
I mean, you don't need any further example than when you go to a game. So I'll go to England versus Australia at Lord's, and I am a complete die-hard England cricket fan. I want England to win, and if Australia are batting and Steve Smith punches a shot straight down the ground, the whole crowd, full of England fans, goes shot and applaud. Now, you don't get that in any other sport. I don't go to Liverpool games and watch a Man City player curl the ball in the top corner and stand up and say, oh, what a goal that is. But in cricket, you applaud the cover drive, you applaud the straight drive, you applaud great piece of the bowling, great catches. So you are there to support your team, but there's a complete appreciation for the opposition and the skill on show as well.
That is true, but the pigster is the pigster, and he's the bane of our life here at Guerrilla Cricket. And when he got bonked on the head last year, kind of saved our ashes, didn't it?
It is. I have watched the clip on YouTube about 50 times, to be fair.
And we've just had something come through from Knuckle. He's saying cricket, and English cricket especially, is constantly making apologies for itself. We need to spend more time shouting about how brilliant it is, which obviously I think, Toby, is something that you're alluding to there. I think the way that the fans engage with each other, there can be a little bit of banter between Aussie fans and English fans and what have you, but there is nothing better than a day in the sunshine at the cricket.
Oh, look, it started raining as well. What a bummer, huh?
See, I'd said the West Indies didn't fancy it. If they'd stuck around for an extra hour, they might have got lucky here with a bit of rain. They didn't turn up this morning with any intention of batting the full day.
I don't think they did. Were you at the World Cup final last year?
No, I wasn't. I was watching it with my dad. I was around my dad's watching it. But it was one of those where you went moments. My dad selfishly organised it. It was a big annual summer party, and he selfishly organised it. And as soon as he said the date, I went, you idiot. You do know what that day is, don't you? And he was gutted. He'd sent out the invite, so he ended up organising, to make amends, he ended up organising a TV so big that it had to get put into the garden by a lorry coming down the road.
Wow.
Well, that was good.
So it was as close as you could get to the act without being there. But even I probably could have scrounged around and pulled some strings and scrounged a ticket, but my dad wasn't going to miss it. He had to do this summer party thing, and I went, do you know what? I've got to watch the World Cup final with my dad, and I'm so glad I did in the end, because hugging him when that final run out happened it will stay with me for the rest of my life. I remember watching the Istanbul football final with my dad. He's not a Liverpool fan, but he was rooting for us that night, and the Cricket World Cup with my dad, and I think those are two things that I'll never forget. Just beautiful moments.
Well, I'll make you feel jealous. I was in a commentary box. There.
Were you?
I was running the world radio feed, and I think we had Colin Croft, Gavaskar, and Clive Lloyd were in the commentary box with us while that was happening, and it was all very, very crazy. It was absolutely amazing.
I take it all
thing.
back. Screw my dad.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was an option. I would have said, "See you later, Dad."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go hang out with Clive Lloyd.
I had him in my car for a week. I was. Yeah, no.
What, as in you kidnapped him?
No. So
from Clive.
I was running. I got called up. A guy I know in the West Indies was running the world radio feed for a guy who owned the rights for the broadcast outside England. And I used to work in TV. I'm a sound engineer, and I've set all this up, and I set up Test Match Sofa and all that sort of stuff. So he got in touch, needing an engineer in England. So I got I was basically running the World Cup world feed from that was anywhere outside the UK. It was a crazy operation. It was probably less organised than we are here at Gorilla, to be fair, when everything happened. But the first week, Clive was the expert summariser, and he was with this guy Barry, who's from the West Indies, Barry Wilkinson. He's quite a well-known commentator out there. And basically, I was just driving me, Clive, and Barry in my shitty Citroen C4 from Cardiff to Southampton for the first week. And I think after the first week, I scared him because we were belting around at 90 miles an hour. And it was raining all the time, and we basically had to get from one ground to the next ground. There was only one lot of us doing the whole thing. So we literally have to get from Cardiff, and the game would finish at 7, and the next game would be in Southampton. So we'd have to belt it down the M4, down to Cardiff, get to a hotel at 11 o'clock at night, sleep and get up the next day. So it was basically us three just travelling around the country for the first week. It's quite a story. I was very proud of that. It was good.
Well, that's awesome. But how terrifying was your driving?
It's quite terrifying. I don't drive slow. I got 4 speeding tickets. I got 4 speeding tickets in 3 days, going up and down the M5. Fortunately, I got 2 of them. I got to take speed awareness courses, so I only got 6 points in the end. Otherwise, I'd have been banned. That's because we had to be everywhere. We were under such pressure. It's crazy, but hey.
I just can't believe that he used to have to net with the great West Indian fast bowlers every day, and he was more terrified of your driving.
Well, yeah.
Just a couple bits to finish us from the match point of view. Player of the match, Stuart Broad. England Player of the Series, as voted by Phil Simmons, Stuart Broad, unsurprisingly. And West Indies Player of the Series is voted by Chris Silverwood, Roston Chase. No surprises there, I shouldn't think, gents.
No, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I guess if Jason Holder had carried on from the first test, he could have got there. I mean, he pretty much won on that first test, didn't he, with those 6 wickets in the first innings. But I think Roston Chase had a pretty good series. He scored runs, he's taken valuable wickets. And you know what? They came into this test with Rakeem Cornwall, who we all wanted to see. He's been okay. But having decided to bowl first, I don't know why they came in here with 2 spinners, and I think Roston Chase is probably the better option.
Yeah, look, we all wanted to see Cornwall just for entertainment factor, if nothing else. But we mentioned earlier they've got all these fast bowlers over here, and none of them have played. And then you go and pick him, and you don't, and then you bowl first. It makes no sense at all. However, on Roston Chase, I did get a message from a mate of mine during the first or second test, who said that he had played down in Sussex a few years ago with Roston Chase, and the club down there said he was the worst overseas player they'd ever had. He scored 344 runs at 22.9 and took his wickets at 34. He said if you had told him then that he would go on to be man of the series against England at the Test series, you never would have believed it. But goes to show, maybe it's not too late for you, Bear, mate. Give it
I think it's too late for me. It's too late for me.
Oh yeah, I think you can stretch the truth.
Exactly.
Gents, we are going to have to start to wrap this up. Toby, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Indeed.
We are very much looking forward to. Well, we've got a couple of surprises. Toby's going to potentially come back and do some comms, but we've got a nice little 2 Tobys thing where Toby Radford, our resident international batting coach, is going to analyse Toby Tarrant's batting technique. So
I'm looking forward to that.
Put that together in the next couple of weeks, and probably look to cover that during the Pakistan series. But Toby, looking forward to doing some comms with us in the near future. And that leaves us just to say at this point, so we will be next on air at 1:50 p.m. on Thursday for the first ODI from Southampton, England against Ireland. We very much look forward to you all joining us then. England regain the Wisden Trophy, winning the series 2-1. Stuart Broad going to 501 wickets in the third and final test Thanks for all your comments, all of your input, and we look forward to you joining us again on Thursday. But for now, from me, Jono, the Bear, and Toby Tarrant, it's goodbye.
See you later. Here comes the theme tune. I've got to find it. There you go.
Guerrilla crickets. Whoa. Guerrilla crickets. Whoa. Guerrilla. Take large man.
Do that all right.
You know, I'm quite looking forward to giving it a go. It's one thing I've never done a bit of sport commentary, so I'll see how we go.
Well, yeah.
The problem is when I'm talking bollocks, I can't just play an Arctic Monkeys record to cover it up. So,
But you can talk bollocks on here as much as you like.
That's true, actually. So
we're not guided by Ofcom, so you can swear, you can get pissed, you can do whatever the fuck you like on here. This is the joy.
Fantastic.
This is the joy of the internet.
Yeah.
And being beyond the boundary.